Chapter 2676, Surrounded by Admirers, Be Careful of Causing Problems for the Organization Behind You. Jian Chen sneered. The old man's cultivation level was even higher than Su Ran's. He was an expert who had reached the 7th heavenly layer of chaotic prime. It was impossible for Jian Chen to fend off someone like that unless he fused the twin swords. As a result, Jian Chen could only intimidate him. He had to strike fear into his heart to stop him from acting recklessly. The old man immediately paled in anger as he looked at Jian Chen's mocking expression. He was a mighty 7th heavenly layer chaotic prime, a great elder of a peak clan in the saints' world. His status was so great, so revered, yet he was being made fun of by a junior here. It immediately vexed him. Faint killing intent began to build up within his heart. People like him would treat their pride with extremely great importance. Jian Chen's attitude directly trampled over his pride. However, before he could do anything, Jian Chen's next words made his face change drastically. I came to the spirit's world under the escortment of Senior Heartless from the Myriad Bone Guild. Do you plan on creating trouble for Senior Heartless of the Myriad Bone Guild today on the Starsource continent? Jian Chen said relaxedly. What? What did you say? The Myriad Bone Guild. Do you come from the Myriad Bone Guild? The old man who tried to threaten Jian Chen immediately paled in fright. Just what kind of existence was the Myriad Bone Guild? Even though they were just an organization of assassins, they stood at the pinnacle of the saints' world. They had truly reached the apex, a terrifying organization only second to Grand Exalts. In the saints' world, the weaker cultivators would not necessarily have the right to learn about the Myriad Bone Guild, but these chaotic primes knew exactly what it represented. The Myriad Bone Guild was an organization they could only look up to, but it also struck fear into their hearts. Let alone them, even the powerful clans behind them held deep fear towards the Myriad Bone Guild. He's actually from the Myriad Bone Guild. With that, all of the chaotic primes gathered there could no longer remain calm. Just the 3 words, Myriad Bone Guild, had frightened quite a lot of them. They deeply understood just how powerful the Myriad Bone Guild was. If they offended the Myriad Bone Guild, not only would they be dead for sure, but even the organizations behind them would be destroyed. Wait, what did you just say? Senior Heartless of the Myriad Bone Guild. Isn't this Senior Heartless? At this moment, the expression of one of the chaotic primes changed. He asked with a voice that trembled slightly. I've basically heard about all the famed experts of the Myriad Bone Guild. There's no one who goes by the name of Heartless among them. No, there is one. Is he? Immediately, all the chaotic primes gathered there seemed to think of something. Their faces changed abruptly. As for the old man who had threatened Jian Chen first, he had already become sheet white. Impossible. Impossible. The Heartless Child is the 2nd boss of the Myriad Bone Guild. He reached the 8th heavenly layer of Grand Prime a long time ago, and it's said that he's extremely close to the 9th heavenly layer now. His status is so great, so why would he personally escort a junior to the spirit's world? A chaotic prime cried out in disbelief. The Heartless Child's reputation was far too great. Even to the Peak clan behind him, it bore the weight of a mountain. He was an existence they could never afford to provoke. So you're actually from the Myriad Bone Guild. I am Zhan Yun. I come from the Heavens sect from planet Kangmang of the Saints' world. Our Heavens sect has made many deals with the Myriad Bone Guild in the past. We're one of their biggest clients, so speaking of which, we're not really strangers. A heavy voice boomed out from the sky. A sagely old man descended with a group of disciples from the Heavens sect. It seemed like he had just entered the Starsource continent. It's actually the people of the Heavens sect. The Heavens sect is the unofficial ruler of planet Kangmang. Their strongest ancestor is the planet lord there. Zhan Yun is one of the 6 heaven great elders of the Heavens sect. The great elders of the Heavens sect are divided into 3 levels, heaven, earth, and mortal. They correspond to late chaotic prime, mid chaotic prime, an early chaotic prime. The people who usually accompany their juniors to the spirit's world are mortal and earth great elders. I never thought they would send a heaven great elder this time. How rare! The arrival of the great elder of the heavens sect immediately raised the attention of many. Planet Kangmang ranked among the top 10 out of the 81 great planets of the saints' world. As their unofficial ruler, the heavens sect was extremely powerful among all the peak organizations of the saints' world. The great elder of the heavens sect, Zhan Yun, glided over through the air. He smiled and seemed approachable, arriving before Jian Chen in just a few steps. He sighed in amazement. I was fortunate enough to see you earlier when he crossed through the tunnel between the worlds. However, a supreme expert accompanied you, so you moved with astonishing speed. I was on a sky vessel, and with its speed, I could only catch a single glance of you before you vanished. I was utterly amazed by that senior's terrifying cultivation. I began to contemplate just which important figure of the saints' world had ventured to the spirit's world. Only now have I learnt from you that it's Senior Heartless of the Myriad Bone Guild. In all these years I've lived, I've only heard about Senior Heartless' great name. I've never had the right to witness his might in person. I never thought I would actually brush past the famous Senior Heartless in the tunnel earlier. It really is a stroke of luck for me. Zhan Yen was rather excited, behaving as if it were a great honor to brush past the Heartless child. Even as a chaotic prime, he struggled to maintain his demeanor. However, with that, Jian Chen's identity became even more consolidated. There were people who doubted whether Jian Chen really came from the Myriad Bone Guild or not earlier, but they firmly believed it now. Everyone's gazes towards Jian Chen underwent an overwhelming change. They struggled to imagine just how great his status was in the Myriad Bone Guild to be personally escorted to the spirit's world by the Heartless child. Even if they were 100 times braver, they would still never dare to offend someone like that. Even the ancestors behind them would never dare to. As for the old man who had threatened Jian Chen earlier, he was filled with regret. His attitude experienced a 180 transformation, and he lowered himself to apologize to Jian Chen. He could not afford to not apologize. If he did not resolve this slight falling out as soon as possible, he would probably be punished by his ancestor when he returned. After all, they could not afford to offend the Myriad Bone Guild, much less someone personally accompanied by the Heartless child. The status of such a person would be unimaginably great. The great elder from the heavens sect did his best to establish a good relationship with Jian Chen. He treated Jian Chen so kindly that it made the disciples of the heavens sect behind him widen their eyes. They were in a state of disbelief. At that moment, the great elder had done something that completely toppled their understanding. The proud disciples of the heavens sect struggled to accept this. It was not just the great elder from the heavens sect either. The other chaotic primes gathered here had lowered themselves as well, smiling as they conversed with Jian Chen. In the blink of an eye, Jian Chen became the center of attention. He became a target that all the organizations tried to appease. He was surrounded by admirers. However, Jian Chen instead felt pressured. He knew that his relationship with the Myriad Bone Guild was a collaboration at most. It was completely different from what everyone imagined it to be. If the truth was revealed and the chaotic primes realized that they had been toyed with, they would never drop the matter. As a result, he did not stay any longer. He came up with a reason to break away from them before stepping onto the teleportation formation and leaving the Starsource continent. Even the 5-colored divine crystals for the teleportation formation were covered by a few chaotic primes. They took the initiative to pay for him. Swish! With a flash of white light, Jian Chen vanished from the teleportation formation. He had left the Starsource continent. The Dark Star continent was another sacred land in the remnants of the spirit's world. It was much larger than the Starsource continent, equivalent to the Cloud Plain. Of course, this was not the complete Dark Star continent either, it was just a broken fragment. The rules on the Dark Star continent and the Starsource continent were basically the same. It was mostly the same apart from their differing names. Dark Star City was the only major city on the Dark Star continent, and it was protected by formations from a Grand Exalt. It possessed the only teleportation formation on the entire continent. However, the Dark Star continent was much more prosperous than the Starsource continent, as the number of cultivators gathered there amounted to several dozen times more. This was all because of the miniature world sealed here, the world of the fallen beast renowned in the spirits world. Chapter 2677, The 100 Tribulations God King Pill. The world of the fallen beast was extremely famous in the spirits world. It could be said that all cultivators who possessed a great grasp over information or had spent some time in the spirits world would know about its existence. This was because the world of the fallen beast possessed the only race that completely survived after the spirits world's destruction. That was one of the peak races that roamed the spirits world in the past, the Dark Star race. It was also because of the Dark Star race that the piece of land had been named the Dark Star continent. When the spirits world was still intact, this land was a tiny piece of the vast territory under the Dark Star race's control. Of course, the spirits world was now in tatters. Only 5 fragments of land in somewhat better condition remained. As a result, the Dark Star continent's area was less than a tenth of the Dark Star race's former territory. In terms of territory alone, the Dark Star race's former land was even vaster than the Prosper Plain, one of the 7 sacred plains of the Saints' world. Of course, that was just in terms of area. It did not mean that the Dark Star race in the past was stronger than the current heavenly palace of Bisheng. The structures of the 2 vastly different worlds varied as well. The spirits world was basically completely divided into races. The entire place was carved up by a few powerful races, with many other subsidiary races below them. As a result, the spirits world in the past was completely divided between the peak races with Grand Exalts. It was a place completely different from the Saints' world. The Grand Exalts of the Saints' world had no desire for conquest. Even the undisputed greatest expert of the past, the war god of the God clan, had only occupied the Godnigma plane. Even with the title of greatest clan in the Saints' world, they did not interfere with the matters of other planes. The heavenly palace of Bisheng only developed quietly on the Prosper Plain. They enjoyed their supreme status, but they did not conquer the entire place. At this moment, Jian Chen sensed something and suddenly looked into the distance. At the end of the wide street was a cluster of powerful presences. They formed a surging billow, sweeping out into the surroundings. A group of cultivators in similar attires slowly walked uniformly. There were over 1,000 people in total, and without any exceptions, they were all early god kings. These people clearly belonged to an extremely powerful organization. Wherever they passed by, the surrounding cultivators would all step aside and show a sliver of fear. Even a few infinite primes would stand aside quietly when they saw the group. Jian Chen looked at the people and frowned slightly. From all the god kings, he sensed something very off, as they definitely were not ordinary cultivators or ordinary god kings. He could clearly sense that all of their presences were unstable. Their vitality fluctuated about, sometimes strong and sometimes weak. A portion of them even seemed like they had reached the end of their lives. They seemed lethargic. Moreover, all of the god kings had gloomy eyes and numb expressions. They gave off a heavy presence of death. They did not possess the energy that regular cultivators did. They're the sacrificial soldiers of the Wei family. Sigh, these people are all tools raised with the 100 Tribulations God King pill. They can only live for 100 years at most. The sacrificial soldiers of the Wei family have been mobilized again. There are actually more than 1,000 of them this time. What is the Wei family doing, mobilizing so many all together? These sacrificial soldiers raised with the 100 Tribulations God King pill are the deterrence trump cards of those peak organizations in the world of the fallen beast. Without them, they wouldn't be able to sustain their business in the world of the fallen beasts. Strange. Why have these large organizations sent sacrificial soldiers into the world of the fallen beast time and time again lately? Is something big going to happen in there? Many cultivators discussed quietly near the street. Jian Chen obtained a lot of information from eavesdropping. 100 Tribulations God King Pill. What kind of pill is that to be able to raise so many God Kings? Jian Chen wondered. He was in great doubt. He immediately clasped his fist at a middle-aged man beside him and asked. The middle-aged man was a mid-God King. He showed a sliver of impatience. Originally, he was reluctant to pay attention to Jian Chen, but when he sensed the vague but tremendous presence Jian Chen gave off, he immediately shivered inside and answered in a hurry, Senior, you must have come to the spirit's world recently, right? It's normal for you to not know what the 100 Tribulations God King Pill is. The 100 Tribulations God King Pill is a pill refined from a heavenly resource that only grows in the world of the fallen beast. The reason why it's called the 100 Tribulations God King Pill is because of its unfathomable power. Even if a mortal who hasn't cultivated at all consumes it, they'll be able to reach God King in an extremely short amount of time. What? There's a pill as incredible as that? Even a mortal can reach God King in an extremely short time after ingesting it? Jian Chen was surprised. The effects of the 100 Tribulations God King Pill had toppled his understanding of pills altogether. Who knows how long and how many resources it would take for a mortal to reach God King. However, he had just heard about a single pill that could elevate a mortal to God King right now. This was no longer a matter of being incredible. It was like a fairy tale. Even though the pill is utterly incredible, it comes with great consequences as well. Anyone who ingests the pill can only live for another 100 years at most. They'll definitely die after the century passes, the middle-aged man continued. A century. Even though it's just a century, it's still not enough to obscure the pill's power. A single pill is equivalent to a God King. If you have several tens of thousand, several hundreds of thousand, or even millions of them, Jian Chen was amazed. He dared not think any further. The middle-aged man smiled bitterly when he heard that. Senior, you can't treat 100 Tribulations God King pills as invaluable as regular heavenly resources. The main material for forging them is 100 Tribulations grass. They only grow in the world of the fallen beast and is extremely valuable. Most of the time, there's none for sale. Normally, only those extremely powerful organizations have the ability to get some from the world of the fallen beast, and it won't be a lot. It's impossible to reach numbers as terrifying as what Senior mentioned. That's because if there really was so much 100 Tribulations grass, the peak sects won't necessarily have the wealth to buy it all. And even if they did, it's impossible for the world of the fallen beast to produce so much. Senior, look at the Wei family. With the tremendous strength of the Wei family, they've basically mobilized everything they have with all these sacrificial soldiers raised with the 100 Tribulations God King pill this time. Chapter 2678, A Grand Exalt Successor appears. The middle-aged man had replied to Jian Chen's questions in a rather flattering manner. He had been stunned by the primordial realm presence Jian Chen purposefully gave off, so he answered Jian Chen's questions with everything that he knew. He spoke in great detail. Jian Chen also managed to learn about a special heavenly resource that never appeared in the saint's world, the 100 Tribulations grass. A pill refined from 100 Tribulations grass could allow a mortal to become a God King. This effect was incredible, but the consequences were extremely terrifying as well, terrifying to a point where no one would be willing to take it under ordinary circumstances despite the sudden increase in cultivation. Has anything major happened in the world of the fallen beast recently? Jian Chen asked. That I do not know. Though recently, those peak organizations have been constantly sending in sacrificial soldiers raised with 100 Tribulations God King pills into the world of the fallen beast. As a result, I do assume something has happened in there, the middle-aged man said carefully. Jian Chen knew the middle-aged man had already surpassed 1,000 years in age, so he probably did not even know what the world of the fallen beast looked like. As a result, Jian Chen did not take up any more of his time. He just tossed some supreme-grade divine crystals to the middle-aged man and left. Thank you for your reward, Senior. Thank you for your reward. The middle-aged man beamed when he looked at the several hundred supreme-grade divine crystals. In the saint's world, several hundred supreme-grade divine crystals would not even attract a second glance from a god-king, but every single one surprisingly valuable in the spirit's world. This was because divine crystals were not as simple as currency in the spirit's world. It had the greater use of recovering origin energy. There would be frequent battles in the spirit's world, and every battle would result in an exhaustion of origin energy. The origin energy in the spirit's world was different from the saint's world. All cultivators who came from the saint's world would struggle to absorb the origin energy here, so the only way for them to replenish their origin energy was through divine crystals. These divine crystals had all been brought over from the saint's world, as it was no longer possible to mine divine crystals in the spirit's world. The passage to the world of the fallen beast was to the very east of Dark Star City. Jian Chen walked slowly, except every single step would cross a tremendous distance, so he moved with lightning speed. He arrived at the entrance very soon. The entrance had already been modified into a square. The square was extremely large and could easily hold a few tens of million people. At this moment, at least 1 million cultivators had gathered in the square. Their cultivation varied, ranging from as weak as gods to as strong as primordial realm experts. Above the square was the entrance to the world of the fallen beast. It was a huge swirl of energy that was thousands of meters across. Within it hid the power of a grand exalt, giving off shocking pulses of energy that struck fear into everyone's hearts. Cultivators would constantly pour in and out of the passageway to the world of the fallen beast. However, most of them were deities and gods. There were very few over-gods and barely any god-kings at all. Only those below the age of 1,000 years could use this entrance. It was extremely rare for people to reach God-King within 1,000 years in the saint's world. The world of the fallen beast contained many resources that the saint's world did not possess. Some cultivators would directly rush off to the stores of large organizations as soon as they emerged from the passage and exchange what they obtained in the world of the forsaken beast for what they needed. At this moment, a chaotic prime's presence appeared. A black-robed old man shot through the air above the square. With a wave of his hand, a divine hall expanded in the air. Afterwards, its doors swung open, and a group of god-kings immediately flew out. There were over 1,000 of them. Jian Chen glanced past them. He could tell instantly that they had been raised by 100 Tribulations God-King pills. They could only live for another 100 years. They were god-kings with the shortest life expectancy. After the old man, a few other primordial realm experts flew over from afar. There were infinite primes and chaotic primes, but without any exception, all of them brought a large number of sacrificial soldiers raised with 100 Tribulations God-King pills. They either carried the sacrificial soldiers in divine halls or directly led them through the air, flying over Dark Star City in a grand manner. Every single person who arrived possessed the support of a large organization and brought at least 500 or 600 god-kings with them. Some even brought as much as over 1,000. Immediately, over 10,000 sacrificial god-kings gathered in the square, directly stunning all the cultivators present. There are actually so many sacrificial soldiers. Heavens, what are the clans trying to do? Has an earth-shaking matter really happened in the world of the fallen beast? Discussions broke out across the giant square. Everyone's attention had been drawn away by the sacrificial soldiers. They began intense discussions. However, the primordial realm experts who had brought the sacrificial soldiers all sat down in the air and began resting. It was as if they were waiting for something. Jian Chen stopped when he saw this. He did not hurry into the world of the fallen beast. At the same time, he concealed his true cultivation, passing it off as early God-King. Suddenly, a tremendous, terrifying presence blanketed the entire region. In the distance, another group of people flew over steadily. A Grand Prime. Jian Chen's heart shivered. This was the first Grand Prime he had seen since coming to the spirit's world. He could not help but look over immediately. The Grand Prime's arrival made all the primordial realm experts above the square stand up. They all bowed towards the Grand Prime due to the difference in seniority. They were extremely solemn. It's an expert of the Dire Wolf clan. What? The Dire Wolf clan? The Dire Wolf clan that obtained a Grand Exalt's legacy on a nameless planet a few years ago. That's right, that Dire Wolf clan. It said that the Grand Exalt's legacy was obtained by a nobody in the Dire Wolf clan. In the end, the junior's status rose up, and he has now become their young master. He has received the full support of the Dire Wolf clan. Jian Chen could not help but think about the lonely planet he had encountered. Su ran on in the past as he listened to their discussions. The ancient Skywolf's legacy had been discovered by him and Kaya together. If it were not for the two of them, the Dire Wolf clan would have never received such a great fortuitous encounter. Strictly speaking, he was the benefactor of the Dire Wolf clan. Kaya, Jian Chen murmured inside. As soon as he thought of Kaya, his heart ached and sorrow began to swell. The people from the Dire Wolf clan had already begun interacting with the primordial realm experts of the other large organizations. The Grand Prime of the Dire Wolf clan was an old man with fierce facial features. He pulled a young man out from behind him and introduced, "This is the young master of our Dire Wolf clan, Jin Hong. Jin Hong, these are your seniors, so why don't you greet them?" Jin Hong seemed around 20 years old, except his appearance was nothing special. No part of him stood out apart from his late God King cultivation. "Greetings to the seniors." Jin Hong clasped his fist. Even though he faced so many primordial realm experts, he did not act out of place. "Jin Hong. You must be the successor to the ancient Skywolf sovereign. You really are striking." A few primordial realm experts smiled. They did not put on any airs. Let alone the Grand Prime, just Jin Hong's identity as the successor of a Grand Exalt was enough to raise serious attention from all of them. Chapter 2679, The Heavenly Crane Clan. The identity and status of a Grand Exalt successor was enough to make all cultivators in the Saints' world envious. Even a few Grand Primes would be tempted and desire such an identity. As a result, even though Jin Hong was not powerful, just a God King, he seemed to have become the point of focus simply by standing there. He became the most dazzling figure in the surroundings. As a matter of fact, even the Grand Prime from the Dire Wolf clan who had purposefully come to escort him treated him with great importance as if he were the supreme king of the clan. "Young Master Jin Hong, I am He Qian. I come from the Heavenly Crane clan of the Ice Pole Plain. I have been tasked by the seniors of my clan to remain within the world of the fallen beast for an entire decade. I do hope young Master Jin Hong can watch out for me." At this moment, a captivating woman appeared before Jin Hong and spoke gently. She seemed to be around 20 years of age and was extremely beautiful, enough to enchant everyone. However, she gave off a sense of coldness that directly influenced the surroundings. It made the temperature around her suddenly plummet. Coupled with her snow-white dress, she seemed very much like a levitating ice beauty. He Qian had clearly cultivated the laws of ice. Due to her cultivation method, wherever she stood seemed to be transformed into a world of frost. The Ice Pole Plain. The Ice Pole Plain of the 7 sacred plains of the Saints' world. The Ice Pole Plain. That's a place watched over by the Ice Goddess. The Ice Pole Plain is completely covered by a snowy tundra, making it the ultimate holy land for those who cultivate the laws of ice. The Ice Goddess. The Ice Goddess Hall is under the control of the Moon God Hall now. It has even come to this, so why are you still talking about the Ice Goddess? The Ice Goddess has probably died a long time ago. What? The Ice Goddess Hall is under the control of the Moon God Hall. That's impossible, the Ice Goddess has to be dead. Otherwise, how would the Ice Goddess Hall fall into the hands of others? Sigh. Out of the 7 Grand Exalts of the Saints' world in the past, the War God of the God Clan who ranked first fell in battle, while the Spacetime Elder and the Inata Grand Prime who stood at equal second and third place died as well. Now, even the ice goddess hasn't managed to avoid that fate. I wonder just how many grand exalts of our saints' world still remain after that war back then. The primordial realm experts in the surroundings had only been conversing casually, but many of them immediately sighed as soon as the ice goddess was mentioned. A few of them had personally witnessed the war back then. They could not help but give out emotional sighs at a time like this and show sorrow. It's actually someone from the ice pole plane. It looks like I need to find an opportunity to come in contact with He Qianqian. I might be able to learn about some matters regarding the Ice Goddess Hall and the Moon God Hall from her. Jian Chen did not stand out at all among the crowd. He looked at He Qianqian high in the air, and the light in his eyes flickered. He was rather worried about Fairy Hao Yu. Quite some time had passed since Fairy Hao Yu left, but there was still no news of her. He wondered how she was doing. He was actually less worried about his sister, Changyang Mingyue. After all, his sister was under Protector Shui's protection, remaining hidden somewhere as she quietly recovered her strength. She was obviously much safer than Fairy Hao Yu, who had directly dove into the belly of the beast. After He Qianqian, a few more young ladies and young masters from various planes of the Saints' world greeted Jin Hong. They were all extremely kind. Some of them even expressed their respect. These young masters and young ladies were all under the age of 1,000. They were all part of the promising young generation, but their strength obviously was not close to Jin Hong's. Only an extremely few of them had reached God King. Most of them were over gods. However, even with that being the case, they possessed great statuses in their respective clans. Even if reaching over God within 1,000 years was not enough to rival supreme prodigies, they were still talented. Not to mention that several of them had made it onto the over God's plaque. Jian Chen ceased to pay attention to the matters between the clans. He discreetly arrived before a divine hall that stood to the side of the square. The divine hall was a medium-quality god artifact. Above the main entrance was a single, ancient word written boldly and powerfully, hiding the truths of the world, Heavenly Crane. This was clearly the divine hall that belonged to the Heavenly Crane clan, equivalent to a temporary resting spot on the square. Not only would it be convenient for members of the Heavenly Crane clan to enter the world of the fallen beast from here, but it also provided a safe and secretive location for the Heavenly Crane clan to purchase some heavenly resources that came out of the world of the fallen beast. There were several dozen divine halls like the Heavenly Crane clans scattered across the square. Every single one of them represented a great organization in the Saints' world. Jian Chen even saw a divine hall that belonged to the Cloud Surge Empire of the Delight Plane. The entrance to the Heavenly Crane clan's divine hall was open. 2 god kings stood at the entrance like statues. They were guards. However, these 2 god kings had already surpassed 1,000 years old. Their eyes were filled with age. Who knows how many tens of thousand years they had lived for already. They were cultivators with limited talent. There were a lot of people like them in the Saints' world. They would basically remain like that for the rest of their lives if they did not come across any major fortuitous encounters. Stop. This is the base of the Heavenly Crane clan. Why have you come? As soon as Jian Chen approached the divine hall, a god king stopped him and asked emotionlessly. I want to join the Heavenly Crane clan in order to enter the world of the fallen beast. Please pass this on for me. Jian Chen clasped his fist. At the same time, he passed some supreme-grade divine crystals to the guard secretly. Jian Chen had already understood the rules here. Many peak organizations of the Saints' world had operations in the world of the fallen beast. However, due to the entry conditions being far too strict, none of the peak organizations could maneuver too much of their power out of the world of the fallen beast for the sake of their interests. As a result, they could only recruit outsiders to make up for the absence in power. The recruitment was not particularly restrictive. It was basically only effective in the spirits world. Once these recruited people returned to the Saints' world, the peak organizations would never recognize their assistance. They would only make exceptions for those who had committed deeds of great merit. The eyes of the two guards lit up as soon as they saw the supreme-grade divine crystals. They ravished in joy and immediately turned much more friendly. "Please wait, brother. I'll contact the caretaker immediately." As he said that, the senses of his soul immediately shot into the depths of the divine hall. Before long, a peak god-king old man emerged from the divine hall. The old man clearly possessed quite a lot of authority here. He had grown accustomed to his power here, so he obviously developed a sense of arrogance. He stood with his hands behind his back and his chin raised high, looking down on everything. He looked down on Jian Chen from above and said haughtily, "Kid, you want to join our heavenly crane clan to enter the world of the fallen beast? What's your name? Where do you come from in the saints' world? Under who did you study?" Chapter 2680, Attracting Attention, Greetings from Junior Yang Yutian. I come from no sect in the saints' world. I have always been alone, with no place tying me down, Jian Chen replied with a clasped fist. He did not speak with any particular modesty or arrogance. He behaved normally, ready to adapt to whatever was thrown at him. Humph, what lies! The eyes of the old man who was dressed like a caretaker immediately turned cold. He stared at Jian Chen sharply as if he wanted to see through him completely. He said icily, "You can only enter the world of the fallen beast if you are under the age of 1,000 years. You've managed to reach early God King within a millennium, yet you still say that you come from no sect. Yang Yutian, do you really think I'm that easy to fool?" The old man's glare became sharper and sharper. "If I've guessed correctly, you should be a spy sent over from some other organization. Tell me, what are you trying to achieve by sneaking into our heavenly crane clan?" A powerful presence radiated from the old man, crushed towards Jian Chen with absolute might. However, he did not know that Jian Chen was not an early God King. Jian Chen had only made his cultivation appear at early God King as a ruse. Before a powerful primordial realm expert, the old man's mere late God King presence seemed rather laughable. However, Jian Chen obviously would not expose his strength. His expression changed, and he acted like he was in agony by gritting his teeth. "Senior, you're overthinking things. The reason why I want to join the Heavenly Crane clan is only to enter the world of the fallen beast. The world of the fallen beast is extremely dangerous. If I move about in there alone, I'll definitely be doomed. I want to join the Heavenly Crane clan to work for you, as well as in hopes of receiving your clan's protection. As for my strength, let me come clean. I accidentally obtained the White River Master's legacy. The White River Master was an infinite prime. However, he passed away many years ago. The legacy and various cultivation resources he had left behind allowed me to attain my current glory." Humph, the legacy of an infinite prime can create a God King below the age of 1,000 years. Do you think I'm as easy to fool as a kid? There's no need for any doubt at all. You have to be a spy sent by some other large organization. You bear no good intentions. I'll capture you right now and interrogate you, the old man bellowed, and his hand directly reached out, approaching Jian Chen with lightning speed and surging energy. He had actually used his full strength this time, completely unleashing his cultivation as a late God King. Clearly, he wanted to capture Jian Chen efficiently this time. This kid is so extravagant, casually giving away over 100 supreme-grade divine crystals to guards. That means he must have even more supreme-grade divine crystals on him. But once I capture him, it'll all be mine, the caretaker thought and celebrated inside. He would not stoop as low as this in the saints' world. A few supreme-grade divine crystals were not enough for him to offend a God King. Even though it was only an early God King, some God Kings did possess many strange secret techniques even if they possessed lackluster strength. Once it came down to a desperate struggle, they could still cause some trouble. However, this was the spirit's world, which made the value of divine crystals increase by several folds. The spendthriftness that Jian Chen had demonstrated was enough for him to take this risk. Jian Chen sneered as he watched the old man's hand reach over. However, his expression did not change. He also struck out with his hand, exhibiting his cultivation at early God King. What ignorance! You're a mere early God King, yet you want to take me head-on. The caretaker sneered. Bang! However, in the next moment, something that surprised him happened. The two hands collided. In the clash between early and late God King, the caretaker did not overwhelm his opponent completely as he had imagined. Instead, he felt a great force that actually nullified all the energy in his hand. However, Jian Chen produced a grunt and staggered backwards uncontrollably. He only stabilized himself after taking several dozen steps. His face was bright red, and it seemed like his body was shaken up. Brat, you really aren't simple. You're an early God King, yet you actually possess such terrifying battle prowess. However, do you think you really can sneak into our Heavenly Crane clan like this? You're dreaming. The caretaker was surprised. He looked at Jian Chen as if he were a monster. However, he wanted to capture Jian Chen even more now. He struck out once again. Energy surged from his body as he turned into a blur that shot towards Jian Chen. He was no longer as passive as before, directly using his strongest technique to strike with lightning speed. Senior, what are you doing? I've come to join the Heavenly Crane clan. If your Heavenly Crane clan won't accept me, then so be it, but you even slander me and want to kill me. So much for being a famed peak clan. Don't you feel any embarrassment by acting like this? Jian Chen called out sternly. He had spoken extremely loudly. His voice spread far away, attracting the attention of many people nearby. Immediately, many gazes were cast over. This immediately made the caretaker's face sink. Originally, he wanted to capture Jian Chen quietly, then finish him off so that he could rob him of all his wealth. Even if someone brought it up in the future, he would be able to dodge the entire matter using his authority. However, he never expected Jian Chen to make a scene, making the Heavenly Crane clan's divine hall the center of attention in the square. With that, a matter that should have been insignificant might develop uncontrollably. God damn it! The caretaker cursed inside. With a flip of his hand, a snow-white feather fan appeared in his hand. The fan was made from the feathers of heavenly cranes, giving off a bone-chilling coldness. The caretaker swung the fan at Jian Chen. Frigid winds immediately began to billow through the surroundings, creating a stream of coldness that drifted towards Jian Chen as if it could freeze space. Stop! At this moment, an old and dignified voice rang out. With the voice, the cold wind from the caretaker's fan seemed to encounter a terrifyingly hot sun, immediately vanishing. Two figures appeared above the divine hall. One of them was a gray-haired old woman. Her face was covered with wrinkles, but she seemed dignified. She gave off the terrifying presence of a chaotic prime. The other person was He Qian of the Heaven Crane clan. Greetings to the Great Elder. Greeting to Miss Qian. The caretaker's face immediately changed drastically when he saw the two of them. He dropped to his knees in great fear. The chaotic prime Great Elder said nothing. However, He Qian glanced past the caretaker and Jian Chen. She asked indifferently, "What happened here? Why is there so much ruckus?" "Miss Qian, this person is a spy. He wants to sneak into our Heavenly Crane clan, but I've exposed him." Chapter 2681, He Qian's attempt. Greetings, Miss Qian. I am Yang Yutian, an independent cultivator. I've specially come to join your Heavenly Crane clan to enter the world of the fallen beast. I'll be able to offer up some support to your Heavenly Crane clan, and I'll also be able to spare your Heavenly Crane clan from much of the strenuous effort. I'm not a spy. Before the caretaker could finish speaking, Jian Chen interrupted him without any hesitation. He completely ignored the ugliness of the old man's face. A late god king was simply far too weak in his eyes, so weak that they were equivalent to ants. He did not even have to use his hands, as just the intent from his ultimate way of the sword would be enough to kill any god king with the slightest thought. Don't you dare. You have no right to speak before Miss Qian and the Great Elder. Why don't you shut up, said the caretaker forcefully. His expression was ugly. You have repeatedly accused me of being a spy. Now that Miss Qian and the Great Elder are here, I obviously have to clear the entire matter up. The Heavenly Crane clan is a famed, peak clan within the Saints' world. I do believe that Miss Qian and the Great Elder can get to the bottom of this entire matter, unlike some other people who would take such laughable actions just for some divine crystals on me, Jian Chen said righteously. This was the first time he had ever met this caretaker, yet the caretaker had specifically targeted him like this. As a result, he had roughly guessed his intentions. The caretaker had probably seen him hand divine crystals to the two guards, which made him believe that there were a lot of divine crystals on him, making the caretaker want to take them for himself. If he really were a regular early god king, the caretaker might have succeeded already. Unfortunately, the person he encountered was Jian Chen. How dare you spew lies and slander me? The caretaker's face was completely sunken. He looked at Jian Chen, and killing intent surged in his eyes. Jian Chen frowned. She looked back and forth between Jian Chen and the caretaker and said, Caretaker Su, tell me, what evidence do you have that indicates Yang Yutian is a spy from another organization? The Great Elder is right here, so don't lie anymore. You know what the consequences of the crime of misleading a Great Elder is. Jian Chen's merciless reply immediately made the caretaker turn pale. He utterly hated Jian Chen now. However, he knew that not only would everything right now have a direct influence over his future, but it could even touch upon his life. This was all because his prior actions had already disgraced the Heavenly Crane clan, dealing a blow to their reputation. He was a completely insignificant figure within the Heavenly Crane clan, while the Heavenly Crane clan was a peak clan in the Saints' world. The stronger an organization, the more they cared about their reputation. If someone like him openly damaged the Heavenly Crane clan's reputation, the clan would never let him off lightly. As a result, he could only say reluctantly, Great Elder, Yang Yutian claims that he comes from no sect or organization and managed to reach God King within 1,000 years through the legacy of a single infinite prime. In my opinion, that alone is enough to raise doubts. Any single person who can reach God King within 1,000 years in the Saints' world are prodigies from large clans or organizations and have received guidance from great experts. Even if it is through a legacy, it should be through an extremely impressive legacy, not a mere infinite primes. As a result, I'm extremely certain that Yang Yutian is a spy from another organization, wanting to infiltrate our clan for some secret reason. The caretaker was rather clever. He knew an explanation like this would only result in the conclusion of him making an incorrect judgment due to limited ability at most, not damaging the Heavenly Crane clan's reputation. This kid sure is impressive to reach early God King within 1,000 years, said the Great Elder of the Heavenly Crane clan. She spoke very indifferently, but the compliment was all that she said. Qian, you handle the matters here. Throwing that out there, the Great Elder flashed and disappeared into the Divine Hall. It was as if she could not be bothered with the insignificant matters there. With the Great Elder's departure, the pressure that Caretaker Su was under immediately plummeted. As long as the Great Elder did not investigate the matter, he could basically reduce the entire incident into a minor one. Qian bowed towards the Great Elder as she departed before revealing a cold expression. She stared at the caretaker and inquired, just because Yang Yutian reached God King within 1,000 years, you decided to handle him as a spy despite the lack of any solid evidence backing it up. Caretaker Su, is this how you handle matters? Miss Qian, enough, don't say anything more. Caretaker Su, I think it's best if someone with greater ability replaces you. If you continue to hold this position, we'll probably lose all the talents that originally wanted to join our Heavenly Crane clan. A single sentence from He Qianshan had determined caretaker Su's fate. He had just lost the tiny amount of privilege he could wield. He Qianshan did not even take a second glance at the pale caretaker Su. She directly made her way to the divine hall and brushed past Jian Chen. Yang Yutian, come in with me. Yes, Miss Chen. Jian Chen was not surprised by this result. He followed He Qianshan into the divine hall calmly. Within a majestic hall, Jian Chen and He Qianshan stood facing each other. He Qianshan gave off a frigid presence, which made the entire place abnormally cold. She stared straight at Jian Chen with her beautiful eyes and asked sternly, Yang Yutian, do you really plan on joining our Heavenly Crane clan, to become a part of our clan, or do you only want to join the group that our Heavenly Crane clan is sending into the world of the fallen beast? Miss Qian, I've come to enter the world of the fallen beast, so I obviously want to join the group. In the world of the fallen beast, I'll stand on the same line as the Heavenly Crane clan, but outside, I will have nothing to do with the Heavenly Crane clan, Jian Chen said without a second thought. Yang Yutian, with the talent that you've exhibited, it's enough for you to become a true member of our Heavenly Crane clan. Have you not considered that? He Qianshan asked. Her eyes twinkled as she stared right at Jian Chen. She was attempting to win him over. Across the saints' world, only a select few people could reach God King within a millennium. Every single one of them was a prodigy, a talent that clans could never get enough of. They were enough to be heavily favored by peak organizations, so He Qianshan obviously would not give up on him. If she successfully recruited a talent like him, it would be quite the contribution to her clan. As a result, he was in no hurry to ask He Qianshan about the polar ice plain. He would wait until they entered the world of the fallen beast. Afterwards, Jian Chen was taken to the resting quarters by a guard. The region was an extremely special place in the Divine Hall because there was nothing there aside from closely packed rooms. It was slightly dark in there. The decor was simple, and it was quiet. The many rooms were arranged in an orderly manner, numbering as many as over 10,000. This is the card to your room. There's a number of there, which records the place where you can temporarily stay in. Go to your room with your card. Don't blame me for not warning you. This is the Divine Hall of the Heavenly Crane clan. The artifact spirit is in control of everything here at all times. If you decide to make trouble here, or if you set foot in places where you don't belong, the artifact spirit will kill you without any mercy, the guard who led the way for Jian Chen said coldly. Then he passed a jade card to him before leaving. Jian Chen looked at the many rooms. He could vaguely sense the presences of godhood cultivators from each room. Most of them were gods, with only a few over-gods. There was not a single god king. He had already guessed that these people had probably been recruited by the Heavenly Crane clan just like himself. These cultivators would supplement their forces that would be entering the world of the fallen beast. All of these cultivators remained in their rooms and cultivated in seclusion, adjusting their conditions. None of them wandered about. Jian Chen looked at the card and found his room quickly in the very depths of the resting quarters. Perhaps due to being a god king, the room he was allocated to was clearly much larger. In the following 3 days, Jian Chen also remained locked up in his own room. He devoted himself to comprehending the way of the sword. He was very skilled, having comprehended many laws, but with his current battle prowess, any breakthroughs in the other laws would bring about no significant increase to his battle prowess. Only with a breakthrough in the laws of the sword would he be able to reach a whole new level. So far, his laws of the sword remained at the minor achievement of Sword Immortal. Once he broke through and reached partial achievement, not only would his laws of the sword attain a new caliber, his chaotic body would be affected as well. He would be able to reach the 15th layer of the chaotic body. I obtained the fleshly core of the Dark Gold Ape King, Gusta. The energy hidden within it is so terrifying that I can easily break through with my chaotic body if I reach partial achievement with my way of the sword. As a matter of fact, I won't even use up all the energy in there by breaking through to the 15th layer. The energy is so immense that it can easily provide me with enough energy to reach the 16th layer, thought Jian Chen. In recent years, he had constantly been making progress after he reached Sword Immortal. Even though it was not enough for him to reach partial achievement, it did push him along, making constant progress to partial achievement. As a result, Jian Chen's current way of the sword was much more powerful than when he broke through in the Sword God Mountains. His comprehension was much deeper as well. The 3 days passed by in the blink of an eye. The artifact spirit of the Divine Hall alerted everyone. Jian Chen then felt a powerful energy from the Divine Hall, and in the next moment, he had been sent outside. The people sent out with him included the other cultivators who had been recruited by the Heavenly Crane clan. They had also been cultivating in the Divine Hall. Time's up. Get ready to set off. This time, I will personally lead you all into the world of the fallen beast. He Qianqian appeared in the air. She was stern, and she gave off an icy cold presence. Her bearing was lofty and cold, almost unapproachable. She only gave a simple reminder about a few matters to be careful about before leading the several thousand cultivators into the center of the square in a grandiose manner. They hovered in the air below the entrance to the world of the fallen beast. The entrance had been completely taken over by the peak clans and organizations of the Saints' world right now, temporarily obstructing any other cultivator from entering. Several hundreds of thousands of people were gathered below it. These people were all split into several dozen groups. They all occupied a region, quietly hovering below the entrance. The several thousand cultivators led by He Qianqian seemed completely inconspicuous among the several dozen groups. Chapter 2683, Within the world of the fallen beast. Jian Chen looked at the several 100,000 cultivators below the age of 1,000 within the crowd. He could not help but shake his head secretly. Clearly, he did not place any high hopes on them. If the sacrificial soldiers raised through 100 tribulations God King pills are ignored, less than 100th of the people here are actual God Kings. Before the Dark Star race that rules over the world of the fallen beast, they're no different from ants, thought Jian Chen. Although he had yet to enter the world of the fallen beast, the heartless child's information allowed him to roughly understand the situation there. As a matter of fact, the Dark Star Emperor alone was enough to easily slaughter everyone, let alone the other unaccounted for factors. The Dark Star Emperor was a 9th heavenly layer infinite prime with supreme talent. His battle prowess was great enough to rival chaotic primes. Before such an expert, even Jian Chen did not feel completely confident about victory, let alone God Kings. It seems like it won't be easy to save Sacred Feather this time. The other experts of the Dark Star race aren't really a problem. It's just that I have no confidence against the Dark Star Emperor. Jian Chen did not feel particularly optimistic. He could not bring any god artifacts or treasures on par with the god tier into the world of the fallen beast. Without the 9-star sword of heavenly ways, his battle prowess would decrease. With the Dark Star Emperor's battle prowess, it would be a difficult battle even in his peak condition, let alone his current weakened state. The difference between their strength had only grown wider. Just as Jian Chen pondered about all this, the young master of the Dire Wolf clan, Jin Hong, appeared. He wore gray robes and kept his presence completely concealed. He followed the Grand Prime of the Dire Wolf clan quietly. He seemed to be maintaining a very low profile. However, no matter how well he hid himself, he still could not avoid the fate of being the center of attention here. No one paid attention to the Grand Prime of the Dire Wolf clan. Instead, all of the cultivators present were fixated on him. He simply stood out too much as the successor of a Grand Exalt. In the eyes of some, such a status was even greater than a Grand Prime's. Grand Primes stood at the apex and were rarely seen by regular cultivators, but every single peak organization in the Saints' world would have one or more. As a result, they were not exactly special. On the other hand, the number of Grand Exalt successors could be counted on 10 fingers. They were basically mythical. As a result, Jin Hong was as dazzling as the midday sun just by standing there. Jin Hong's appearance also meant that all the organizations taking part in the expedition this time had arrived. The many organizations began to enter the world of the fallen beast in an orderly fashion. Very soon, it was the Heavenly Crane clan's turn. The several hundred sacrificial soldiers and several thousand recruited cultivators all vanished into the tunnel under He Qianqian's lead. As soon as he entered the tunnel, Jian Chen felt a power so terrifying that it irresistibly restricted his movements. This power was just too vast, just too terrifying. It was no longer possible to tell whether it belonged to the Grand Exalt of the Dark Star race or the Wood Spirits, or the world of the fallen beast itself. Wrapped by the power, Jian Chen felt like he crossed through a distant space and time. He lost all senses over the flow of time, so he had no idea how much time had passed. It seemed like a few days, but it also felt like a few years. In the end, the power around him trembled, and he had appeared in a gloomy world. He looked around and discovered that he was standing in a forested region. Above him was the exit to the world of the fallen beast. It seemed exactly the same as the entrance above Darkstar City. It was also an extremely large energy vortex. Jian Chen could not see any celestial bodies within the gloomy world. However, he saw a huge barrier that stood 100 kilometers away. The barrier enveloped the exit as a hemisphere. It acted as a powerful defense. There was a thick, gray mist outside. He could vaguely make out mountains. Jian Chen had already expanded the senses of his soul silently. Since it was the senses from a primordial realm expert, coupled with his concealment, no one present discovered it. However, when the senses of his soul came into contact with the barrier, it was blocked. This barrier was cast down by a primordial realm expert. Although I can force the senses of my soul through it, doing so would definitely create quite the disturbance, thought Jian Chen. According to his knowledge, only the people of the Dark Star race could cast down such a powerful barrier here. Jian Chen's surroundings became packed very soon. The presences of godhood experts merged together, forming something akin to an ocean. It was tremendous. Everyone taking part in the expedition had gathered here. The sacrificial soldiers and many cultivators all stood in their own smaller groups. All gather. Don't wander about. At this moment, several loud shouts rang out. The leaders of each organization ordered their people. These leaders included He Qianqian. People of the Heavenly Crane clan, enter the Divine Hall. I'll be taking you to 100 Saint City via a teleportation formation. A divine hall appeared in He Qianqian's hands. The divine hall was not a god artifact but a supreme quality saint artifact. However, it was extremely close to being a low-quality god artifact. It could even be described as a quasi-god artifact. At the same time, the leaders of the other organizations also took out supreme quality saint artifacts to take away their people. The teleportation formation they would be taking had limited capacity. It could not transport as many people as the tunnel into the world of the fallen beast. Hence, they had to minimize the people outside if they wanted to reach 100 Saint City quickly. The large-scale teleportation formation there originally shone with dazzling light and pulsed with power. However, just when everyone was about to enter the divine halls, it rapidly dimmed. Very soon, it fell silent completely. It was without any energy at all. The sudden changes with the teleportation formation made all the leaders frown. Immediately, they sent people to investigate. Oh no, the connection has been broken. There's nothing wrong with the teleportation formation here. It must be the one in 100 Saint City, the investigating person said with an ugly frown. Something must have happened to 100 Saint City. Young Master Jin Hong, I would advise you to change the teleportation destination immediately to an alternative, a leader suggested to Jin Hong. All the leaders had been told to obey Jin Hong with regard to everything during the expedition in the world of the fallen beast this time. As a result, They would all ask for Jin Hong's opinion if they wanted to do anything major. Jin Hong nodded, agreeing to the suggestion. Very soon, the teleportation formation was adjusted and set to another destination. However, the faces of the people responsible for adjusting the formation all sank completely. There's bad news. The other teleportation formation is not responding either. It's the same problem, someone reported. With that, everyone's faces became warped. We have a few other alternatives. Let's adjust the destination again. The teleportation formation was adjusted several times, but the end result was chilling. They discovered that all the teleportation formations in the world of the fallen beast, no matter how well hidden they were, had suffered problems. They could not teleport to those places. The teleportation formations had to be connected on both ends to function. Once something happened to one end, it would cease to function, so teleportation obviously became impossible. God damn it, it must be the Dark Star race. Apart from the one in 100 Saint City, the teleportation formations we've cast down are all extremely obscure. Only the Dark Star race has the ability to sniff them all out in the world of the fallen beast. It's troublesome now. How will we go to 100 Saint City without a teleportation formation? Do we have crossed through the Twin World Mountains? As soon as the two World Mountains were mentioned, many of the leaders fell silent. They became very solemn. Some of them even paled in fright. Chapter 2684, The Two World Mountains. Jian Chen became curious when he heard the surrounding discussion. He arrived before He Qian and asked, Miss Qian, what are the Two World Mountains? Are they very frightening? Do you see those mountains outside the barrier? Those are the Two World Mountains. No, strictly speaking, we're standing in the Two World Mountains right now. Whether it be to the Dark Star race or us outsiders, the Two World Mountains is a forbidden region for us to set foot in, as many life-devouring beasts live here. It's rumored that the life-devouring beasts originate from the power that the Grand Exalt of the Wood Spirits had left behind. Each life-devouring beast possesses tremendous vitality. Even if it receives the most fatal of attacks, it can recover immediately through its tremendous vitality, making them almost impossible to kill. Not only do they have great vitality, but they can also devour life force. Once someone is injured by a life-devouring beast, the life-devouring beast will devour a portion of their life force. This will happen even if it were just a moment of contact. And that's when there isn't a great disparity in strength. If the difference in strength is far too great, life-devouring beasts can even suck away all the life force of a cultivator from afar, He Qian said sternly. Fear appeared in her icy cold eyes. If we can't use the teleportation formations, are we forced to cross through the Two World Mountains? Jian Chen continued to ask. That's right, there are only two paths from here, or returning to the spirit's world. However, as all of our great organizations have sent such huge contingents, they will never accept us returning in failure. He Qian's voice clearly became grim. She understood the horror of the Two World Mountains very well. Without primordial realm experts, the Two World Mountains were basically hell. Moreover, even if a primordial realm expert could set foot here, they would still likely be doomed within the Two World Mountains. That was because most people who could reach the primordial realm within 1,000 years were early infinite primes. The Two World Mountains were a place that could threaten late infinite primes. Afterwards, Jian Chen asked a little more regarding the mountains and gradually gained a clearer grasp of it. He knew that there were at least several infinite prime life-devouring beasts in the Two World Mountains. The strongest would be the life-devouring beast king. It was so powerful that even the Emperor of the Dark Star race could not slay it. As a matter of fact, it could even fend off the Emperor of the Dark Star race. The Emperor of the Dark Star race was a supreme figure on par with chaotic primes in battle. Even someone like that could not kill the life-devouring beast king, which only made it evident just how terrifying it was. Life-devouring beasts are actually so powerful, so wouldn't we be in great danger by staying here? The barrier is powerful, but it can't stop those stronger life-devouring beasts, a cultivator asked with a pale face from the Heavenly Crane Clan's group. Don't worry. As long as we stay within the barrier, we won't be in any danger. Although our saint's world paid an astronomical price for an infinite prime of the Dark Star race to cast down this barrier, its purpose is not to fend off the life-devouring beasts, as they can't approach this place. The power of the world of the fallen beast is extremely dense near the exit, and the life-devouring beasts fear the presence of this power very much, said He Qianqian. With that, everyone finally eased up a little. At least they knew that the life-devouring beasts would not be able to threaten them right now, even if they were terrifying. No one had come close to expecting such developments. The malfunctioning teleportation formation had trapped everyone here. Although they could leave, they would be returning with failure. They would never be able to raise their heads in their clans again. They would become the jokes among their generation, and even their futures would be affected drastically. However, if they tried to pass through the two world mountains, they could end up staying here forever. The descendants and disciples of the several dozen peak organizations from the Saints' world were stuck between a rock and a hard place. Afterwards, Jin Hong gathered the leaders of all the organizations and discussed their plans together. In the end, they came up with a decision that was infuriating, but they were helpless about it. They decided to wait. Including the sacrificial soldiers raised through 100 tribulations God King pills, several 100,000 godhood cultivators all waited quietly within the barrier, hoping that the teleportation formation would be repaired as soon as possible. Jian Chen also sat on the floor, resting with his eyes closed. He did not try to stand out. However, he did understand that the waiting would lead to nothing. With the failure of several teleportation formations, this was clearly a planned event. There was almost no chance that the teleportation formations would be repaired. The wait lasted for a month. A month later, many people lost their patience. Some of them had as much time as they wanted, so they did not care. However, the sacrificial soldiers did not. They could only live for 100 years at most. Once the century elapsed, all of them would be dead. The sacrificial soldiers were the greatest force under their control. Without them, they would be able to do nothing here. Some people suggested returning to the spirit's world, while others boldly suggested traveling through the two world mountains. The several dozen leaders descended into an endless argument. Is your 100-battle clan really that fearful of death? It's just the two world mountains. What is so scary about it that it has made you frightened like this? Humph, what is the point of saying all this? Why don't your Greenfields clan stop hiding in the barrier then and step into the two world mountains? I would like to see if any of you return alive. After several consecutive days of bickering, Jian Chen became rather impatient as well. He said to He Qianqian, we can't just keep waiting like this. Miss Qian, may I ask if you have the courage to cross the two world mountains with me? Cross the two world mountains with you? Heh, where did this kid come from, to be ignorant to the point of even wanting to cross the two world mountains? Do you really think you can do whatever you want in the world of the fallen beast just because you're a god king? Humph, what a reckless kid. He Qianqian said nothing. Instead, a young man in yellow walked over and mocked Jian Chen. Jian Chen knew this young man. He was also the leader of a peak organization, reaching God King under the age of 1,000. He would always go looking for He Qianqian when he had nothing better to do. He was one of her courtiers. The young man did not take Jian Chen seriously at all. Even though Jian Chen was also a God King, he had no background. His talent was outstanding, but he was no different from a servant in the young man's eyes. He directly made his way over to He Qianqian. Qianqian, you've seen it all as well. None of us have anticipated the developments here. I've already agreed with over a dozen other organizations to wait here for 3 more years. If the teleportation formation doesn't start up again during those 3 years, we'll back out of here. You could stick with us. He Qianqian shook her head. If we just back out like this, our Heavenly Crane clan status will plummet, and we'll never be able to raise our heads again. I would rather die here than have that happen. At the very least, we would have died for our clans by falling in battle here. We won't disgrace our clans. To live is always better than dying. Qianqian, don't think like that. You need to survive first. Only then is there any possibility for something to happen. The young man did his best to convince her. Enough. Chu Jie, don't say anything else. Although I, He Qianqian, fear the life-devouring beasts, I don't fear death, He Qianqian said firmly. Sigh. Then do whatever you want. Chu Jie sighed gently and left in pity. Miss Qian, since you've already made up your mind, let's set off now, said Jian Chen. He Qianqian glanced at Jian Chen coldly. Yang Yutian, you must remember that you are crossing the two world mountains with me, not me with you. I hope you watch your mouth next time. You may be a god king, but you still have to bear in mind who's in charge. All right, Miss Qian, Jian Chen smiled slightly. He did not mind He Qianqian's attitude at all. He Qianqian's gaze suddenly sharpened. She looked at the hazy mountains and suddenly became extremely determined. Chapter 2685, Setting Off. Jian Chen smiled gently. The supreme prodigies here all experienced fear as soon as the life-devouring beasts were mentioned. They are frightened by them, yet Miss Qian chooses to advance courageously, opting to face the life-devouring beasts by entering the two world mountains. Just that courage and boldness alone is enough to determine that Miss Qian's future will be exceptional. He Qianqian looked at Jian Chen. Her eyes, cold enough to form a layer of frost, were slightly surprised. Yang Yutian, you're rather bold as well. I don't see any fear or dread in your eyes at all. I wonder why you are so fearless, or what kind of trump card you are hiding that makes you so unafraid of the life-devouring beasts. He Qianqian continued, if you are ignorant of the strength and danger that the life-devouring beasts pose, then I must warn you. We may have several 100,000 people here, including many god kings and sacrificial soldiers, but in the eyes of the life-devouring beasts, we are only a slightly larger ant. If we unfortunately come across a primordial realm life-devouring beast, we will probably be annihilated. Of course, if you really are relying on a hidden trump card, I still must warn you that you better off take things seriously. Life-devouring beasts are far more troublesome than you imagine them to be. Do you really think that whatever you're hiding is stronger than us, the outstanding descendants and disciples of various peak organizations across the Saints' world who have practiced the greater cultivation methods and battle skills? There was a hint of disdain in He Qianqian's voice. She was slightly haughty. Her disdain was not directed towards Jian Chen's strength. Since he could reach God King within 1,000 years, his talent was already no worse than her own. What really made He Qianqian take Jian Chen lightly was his background. He Qianqian did not say much to Jian Chen. After a solemn warning, she directly went to discuss with the leaders of the other organizations. As he watched He Qianqian travel into the distance, the corner of Jian Chen's lips curled up slightly, turning into a gentle smile. What? Qianqian, you're mad. You actually want to cross the two world mountains? He Qianqian, calm down. You have no idea how terrifying the mountains are. You mustn't act recklessly, He Qianqian, the danger in the two world mountains exceeds anything that you can imagine. You must not set foot in there. Very soon, a series of cries rang out from nearby, followed by the mixed sound of argument. Many leaders did their best to try and convince He Qianqian. Even more people stood there with warped expressions, looking at He Qianqian with hostility. These people were all reluctant to set foot in the two world mountains. They had always tried to convince everyone else and Jin Hong so that everyone would return with them. If they all left together, they would have plenty of excuses to avoid the blame even if they had failed the missions from their clans. However, if a portion of them chose to cross the two world mountains while they chose to retreat like cowards, they would become disgraces. As a result, He Qianqian's suggestion of crossing the two world mountains led to hostility from some people. I've already made up my mind. Please set off with me if you are willing to cross the two world mountains with our heavenly crane clan. If you don't want to, I won't force you to do anything. He Qianqian looked around at the people around her and said loudly. At that moment, she seemed like a female hero, completely fearless of death. Many people's faces warped. They looked at one another, stuck between a rock and a hard place. The Heavenly Crane clan sure has produced a person of talent. He Qianqian, I admire your courage. I, Sun Ji, am willing to lead our Sun clan with you. Isn't it just the two world mountains? If this was the Saints' world, any single great elder from our Sun clan could flatten the entire place. What's there to be afraid of, said a middle-aged man boldly. There are so many men here, yet we can't even match up to a woman like He Qianqian. If this makes it out, wouldn't you all become laughingstocks? He Qianqian, our man family will attempt to cross the two world mountains with you, don't forget our Empire Lotus Sword sect. The two world mountains can't stop us, the sword in my hand has always wanted to taste the blood of life-devouring beasts, there were the cowardly, and there were the courageous. Immediately, some people stepped forward while uttering bold and courageous words, standing together with He Qianqian. Powerful battle intent smoldered within their eyes, they were ready to face the life-devouring beasts of the two world mountains. Enough. Stop arguing. At this moment, a voice rang out, cutting through all the ruckus like a bolt of thunder. The powerful sound wave crushed the vegetation in the surroundings to dust. A few of the weaker godhood cultivators were deafened as the voice roared through their ears. Even the souls of the god kings shook before the powerful sound wave. The divided groups immediately quietened down to the point where even a pin drop could be heard. Everyone looked in the same direction in shock and fear. The person who had spoken was Jin Hong. He had maintained an extremely low profile. Even though he was the young master of the Dire Wolf clan and the successor of a Grand Exalt, he did not possess the haughtiness of the supreme prodigies there who were shrouded in light. As a result, even though he was technically the leader of the entire operation, he did not stand out among the crowd at all. He rarely spoke as well, making it very easy to ignore him. What a penetrative force, even with my cultivation, I was stunned by Jin Hong's voice. Jin Hong is much more powerful than I imagined him to be. He really is the successor of a Grand Exalt after all. The various prodigies were silently shocked. Even though they knew Jin Hong was the successor of a Grand Exalt, none of them had witnessed him fight, so they obviously had no idea about his strength. They all knew they had only seen the tip of the iceberg after that bellow. Young Master Jin Hong, our great elders have specially told us that we are to follow you this time. May I ask what young Master Jin Hong is thinking, said a supreme prodigy. Jin Hong looked around. He was extremely calm and said, all of us will cross the two world mountains. No one will stay here. Of course, if there is any person who wishes to return to the spirit's world, I won't stop you. However, I will send people to announce how you have deserted us and let everyone know how incompetent you are. Jin Hong did not say much, but just those words alone made some of the fearful leaders change in expression. They were filled with resentment towards Jin Hong now. You bastard! Jin Hong, how vicious of you! The expression of Chu Jie, who had mocked Jian Qin earlier, darkened. Jin Hong's words at the end had cut off all of their paths of retreat. Let's not waste time and set off right now. We have to reach 100 Saint City as quickly as possible. With his mind made up, Jin Hong acted swiftly. He immediately gathered everyone and set off towards the area beyond the barrier. Chapter 2686, At a complete advantage. None of the leaders dared to object to Jin Hong's orders. That was not only because of his status as the successor of a Grand Exalt. More importantly, it was because they had received orders from their seniors to follow all of Jin Hong's arrangements during this expedition to the world of the fallen beast. The several 100,000 people began to move. They determined the direction and slowly approached the barrier 100 kilometers away. The power of the world of the fallen beast was the strongest within the barrier. As a result, the life-devouring beasts would never dare to come close. However, the power of the world would become thin outside the barrier. That would be the territory of the life-devouring beasts, which would throw the group into constant danger. Even though everyone was a godhood cultivator and could cross 100 kilometers in the blink of an eye, the distance seemed extremely long right now. Especially when they grew closer and closer to the barrier, some of the prodigies from peak organizations could not help but tremble. Their fear towards the life-devouring beasts had already flooded their minds, causing them to move more and more slowly the closer they were to the barrier. Oi, you clans, keep up with the pace. If you fall behind, you might get annihilated when you face the life-devouring beasts with your strength alone. A god king at the front looked back at the few large groups that had almost fallen behind the majority completely and immediately laughed aloud. Derision appeared in his eyes when he saw the pale faces of the leaders of the groups. Out of the several dozen leaders, some of them had emerged through blood and death, having undergone devastating trials. They had forged a steel-like willpower, so entering the two world mountains obviously did not frighten them. However, there were also those who were like snowflakes. Through the abundant resources of their clans, they had reached God King in an extremely short amount of time, but they rarely came close to death through trials and tribulations. Now that they were here, facing the threat of the life-devouring beasts, they were obviously scared witless. What the hell was the great elder thinking, making me follow all of Jin Hong's orders? Our Lance Empire is an everlasting empire that has existed since the times of antiquity after all. I'm a mighty prince of the Lance Empire with brilliant talent. I reached God King in just 800 years, and my future accomplishments will be immeasurable, so why must I lay down my life with Jin Hong of the Dire Wolf clan now? Jin Hong, you actually forced me into this. I'll never spare you. Humph, does Jin Hong really think he's invincible after obtaining a Grand Exalt's legacy, that he can cross the two world mountains? He probably hasn't witnessed the horror of life-devouring beasts before. I would like to see how he dies. We should be careful. Once we leave the barrier and come across life-devouring beasts, leave Jin Hong to stop them. He thinks he's so great with his legacy from a Grand Exalt. He'll get what he has been asking for soon. Remember, do not face the life-devouring beasts head-on when you come across them. Let Jin Hong stop them. Once Jin Hong dies, we'll retreat back into the barrier immediately and return to the spirit's world. Many of the leaders came up with plans. The light in their eyes all flickered as they stared at Jin Hong at the very front. They gritted their teeth in resentment, but they dared not show it. Once we leave the barrier, we'll be in the territory of the life-devouring beasts. We'll face the danger of attacks at all times. Yang Yutian, you must stick close to me later on. Don't lose your life here, He Qianqian communicated with Jian Chen sternly in the Heavenly Crane Clan's group. Excluding the sacrificial soldiers, Jian Chen was the only god king aside from He Qianqian within the Heavenly Crane Clan's group. As a result, He Qianqian clearly attached great importance to Jian Chen. Everyone arrived before the barrier very quickly. Hovering before it, Jin Hong glanced past the mountains outside. He showed no fear, directly stepping through it. After him were the people from the Dire Wolf clan, ranging close to 10,000 in number. Following them were the Sun family, Man family, Empire Lotus Sword sect, and around another dozen leaders. They crossed through the barrier fearlessly with the people under them as well. They all gave off vigorous battle intent, clearly ready to enter a bloodbath with the life-devouring beasts. Let's go. He Qianqian called out and crossed through the barrier with her group as well. Close to half of the entire group remained within the barrier. They gazed at the mountains shrouded by grey mist fearfully. They hesitated about stepping through the barrier. "Ha, just the life-devouring beasts have frightened you so much. Cowards like you lot should stay in your respective families obediently and live out the rest of your lives easily. You have no right to set foot in the world of the fallen beast." A prodigy outside the barrier looked at the frightened people inside and snickered fearlessly. Isn't that the prodigy of the Chu family, Chu Jie? You're not injured, are you? Why have you become so pale? And your legs, why are they trembling? You're a god king for God's sake. Can't you even stand properly? Added another prodigy. He stared at Chu Jie and ridiculed him. He was the prodigy of the Hai family, Hai Gi. The Hai family and Chu family had past grievances, so now that the opportunity to ridicule Chu Jie had presented itself, he obviously could not let it slip. "Humph, Hai Gi, I'll let your arrogance slide for now. I would like to see how you die when the life-devouring beasts come," Chu Jie said in resentment. Faced with Hai Gi's mockery, he could only cross through the barrier reluctantly. Soon, the other prodigies inside the barrier could not endure the insults either after hesitating for a while. Faced with various pressures, they all crossed through the barrier. All the prodigies who had come to the world of the fallen beast had left the barrier now. They stood within the two world mountains dominated by life-devouring beasts. Oh no! The senses of my soul are suppressed. What is this power? My senses are less than 1/100th of their usual capacity. A cry rang out. The senses of my soul are suppressed as well. God damn it, I can only expand my senses to a range of 10 kilometers, the senses of my soul are completely useless. It has been firmly locked within me. Jian Chen frowned in response to all these cries. He immediately expanded the senses of his soul as well and discovered that even though they were affected, he could still reach a range of 1,000,000 kilometers. A range of 1,000,000 kilometers was more than enough in the two world mountains. He could investigate the surrounding situations beforehand and discover any dangers. It's because of the gray mist. Who knows where the mist comes from? You can't actually disperse it. It looks like the mist is anything but ordinary. Jian Chen discovered the reason for his suppressed senses of the soul very soon. He did not devote too much attention to the mist. Instead, he began to observe the life-devouring beasts. The senses of his soul had already reached 1,000,000 kilometers away. However, he had no idea how vast the mountains were, as he still could not find the boundary. However, many life-devouring beasts appeared in the senses of his soul. The life-devouring beasts varied in size and shape, appearing in all sorts of forms. Some looked like tigers or leopards, while others seemed like ancient beasts. There were even some that existed as vegetation, fusing with the surroundings perfectly. As a result, it was difficult to discover them. However, no matter what form they took, the presence they gave off and the pulsing of energy was identical. There's a life-devouring beasts rapidly approaching this place 20 kilometers away. 25 kilometers away, there's a life-devouring beast in the shape of a huge tree, several hundred meters in height. Jian Chen found everything with the senses of his soul. Chapter 2687, An Initial Clash. The life-devouring beast 20 kilometers away is shaped like a leopard, except it has 6 legs. It has clearly discovered us and is directly heading in our direction, thought Jian Chen. The powerful senses of his soul discovered the strength of the life-devouring beast with perfect precision. It was roughly equal to a late-over god. It posed no threat to the group. However, this life-devouring beast moved extremely quickly. With its strength equivalent to a late-over god, it could cross 100 kilometers in an instant, so 20 kilometers only took it the blink of an eye. Instantly, the 6-legged, leopard-shaped life-devouring beast appeared before everyone. The senses of everyone's souls were suppressed within the two world mountains. Even some of the god kings could only expand their senses to a range of 10 kilometers, which was nowhere near enough for them to receive an early warning. By the time they could sense the life-devouring beast, it would have crossed the 10 kilometers already and appeared before them. Roar! Immediately, the life-devouring beast produced a beast-like roar. Its eyes shone with a muddy, bloodthirsty light as it directly lunged towards the cultivators nearest to it. Be careful, there's a life-devouring beast, it's a life-devouring beast. The life-devouring beasts have come. The life-devouring beasts have come, don't panic. Attack together. The cultivators only reacted when the life-devouring beast had already attacked. Their faces changed drastically, and all of them cried out in surprise and fear. Even the god kings among them became extremely stern. They seemed very nervous. Immediately, over 100 people struck out together. There were over gods and a few god king leaders. Even over a dozen of the sacrificial soldiers had struck out together. All of the attacks formed a blanket of colorful lights that surged towards the life-devouring beast mercilessly. Oh no, my life force has already begun to leak away. The life-devouring beast has already begun to devour my life force. At the moment they launched their attacks, a few gods among the group called out in fear. The life-devouring beast had yet to attack them. However, when they were a certain distance away from it, their life force would leak away uncontrollably, surging towards the life-devouring beast as strands of energy. Having appeared out of nowhere, the life-devouring beast actually faced all the attacks fearlessly. It suddenly made a turn in the air and lunged in a different direction, dodging everyone's attacks and invading the group instantly. It was like a wolf among a flock of sheep, frightening the surrounding cultivators to run all over the place as they screamed in fear. At the same time, a large amount of life force leaked away from the surrounding gods, and all of it gathered towards the life-devouring beast. Gods were unable to retain control over their life force in the presence of the life-devouring beast. Even a few of the weaker over-gods suffered the same fate. However, their life force did leak away at an evidently slower pace. Retreat. Don't approach the life-devouring beast. A bellow rang out, and sword chi surged in the distance. A strand of sharp sword chi formed a lotus of great detail and tore through the air. The prodigy from the Empire Lotus Sword sect had launched an attack. At the same time, the life-devouring beast opened its huge mouth and directly chomped down on a god. The god screamed miserably. His body withered away at an unbelievable pace, as if it had been sucked dry. He was reduced to a bag of bones. The god had died then and there. His life force had been completely devoured, and the life-devouring beast became slightly stronger. Bang! Only now did the lotus sword chi land on the life-devouring beast. With a rumble, the sword chi exploded, forming lotus petals that sliced away at the life-devouring beast's body. The life-devouring beast trembled violently. The sword chi unleashed carnage within its body, ravaging its life force. The life-devouring beast produced a howl of pain. However, it did not die. Its tremendous life force battled the sword chi, forcing it to rapidly weaken. In the surroundings, the various over-gods and god-kings used this opportunity to attack once more. This time, 200 attacks rained in at the same time, landing mercilessly on the life-devouring beast. Boom! The life-devouring beast was unable to dodge this time. With a deafening sound, it was blasted into pieces. The life-devouring beast did not bleed. It only possessed a tremendous presence of life, which seemed to be equivalent to blood. The chaotic surroundings immediately settled down after the life-devouring beast's death. Everyone pointed and murmured at the corpse of the life-devouring beast. Some people were pale, still stricken with fear, while others were relieved and disdainful towards the corpse. That's a life-devouring beast. It's nothing much at all. We crushed it to pieces as soon as we met it. The rumors described the life-devouring beasts to be so terrifying, yet now that I look at it, it's clearly an exaggeration. These life-devouring beasts are no big deal, don't you underestimate the life-devouring beast. Didn't you see how our life force began to leak away uncontrollably as soon as it approached us? That's because you're too weak. Your weakness makes the life-devouring beast appear powerful, many people discussed among themselves. All the leaders had arrived there as well. They opened up a clearing among the people and collected the remains of the life-devouring beast and studied it in their hands. Many of them were stern. This life-devouring beast was only equivalent to an over-god, yet it could survive my lotus explosion sword chi. If it were not for the sheer amount of attacks, killing the life-devouring beast would have taken quite the effort, even for me, the leader of the Empire Lotus Sword sect said sternly. He did not celebrate over the death of the life-devouring beast. Instead, he was solemn. The might of Brother Chongsheng's Lotus Explosion Sword Chi is shocking. Even other early god kings cannot withstand its power without a powerful cultivation method and battle skill, yet this life-devouring beast could last for so long as a mere over-god. It even had the ability to oppose the attack. These life-devouring beasts really are very powerful. They really live up to the rumor of being difficult to deal with, another leader added sternly. The most terrifying part about the life-devouring beasts is their ability to devour life force. If the difference in strength is overly large, just being in their presence will drain away life force. Fortunately, it was only equivalent to an over-god this time. If a late god-king life-devouring beast appeared, we would probably be forced to flee. Let alone fighting it, we would lose control of our life force just by standing within a certain distance from it. It's said that there are countless godhood life-devouring beasts in the two-world mountains, and the most terrifying fact is that there are even primordial realm life-devouring beasts. As soon as they heard that, everyone's faces changed drastically. If they were outside, they would even be able to face off against infinite primes with so many people, as they could work together by creating formations. However, facing the terrifying ability of life-devouring beasts, even if they created a powerful killing formation, they had no confidence in stopping a primordial realm life-devouring beast. These remains are fantastic materials for some pills, so stow them away. Let's set off quickly. We mustn't waste time here. We need to leave as quickly as possible, said Jin Hong. Even though he was the successor of a grand exalt and possessed extremely great battle prowess, he was unable to relax at a time like this either. Chapter 2688, Difficult Progress. The remains of the life-devouring beast were split into several dozen portions and handed to the leader of each organization. Life-devouring beasts were an extremely rare type of organism because they only existed within the world of the fallen beast. Moreover, any single part of their remains possessed extremely powerful life force. This life force could not be directly absorbed by cultivators. However, they were fantastic materials for various god-tier pills. As a result, the remains of life-devouring beasts might not possess much value within the world of the fallen beast, but they would be valued at several dozen times, or even hundreds of times, in the saints' world. Due to the limitations on cultivation, people who could refine the remains of life-devouring beasts into pills were basically mythical existences. That was why it was not a resource exploited in the world of the fallen beasts. However, it would be a completely different story in the saints' world. In the saints' world, the remains of life-devouring beasts would be items that powerful cultivators or strong organizations would fight over. As a result, all the leaders of the groups were rather pleased when they obtained these remains. The two-world mountains may be dangerous, but it's also a way to get rich. If I collect enough remains when I return to my clan, it will be a service of great merit. I will definitely be rewarded personally by the great elders. It will give me a basis for when I fight for the position of patriarch in the future and increase my chances at success. A few prodigies smiled to themselves. Even some of the prodigies who were initially afraid of the life-devouring beasts felt their fear subside slightly as they looked at the remains they held. Afterwards, everyone reorganized their groups and set off once again. No one showed any interest towards the god who had died in the mouth of the life-devouring beast. Jian Chen was the only exception. He arrived before the god's corpse that had its life force drained and was reduced to a bag of bones, and the light in his eyes flickered. A god's life force was completely drained away in just a few seconds. That life-devouring beast had such a great devouring ability. Jian Chen was secretly surprised. He could tell with a single glance that not only had the cultivator lost all of his life force, but even his soul had dispersed. Let alone godhood cultivators, even the weaker origin realm cultivators could have their souls survive upon the destruction of their bodies. They could subsequently rebuild their bodies. However, after this god had his life force drained, even his soul did not remain. Can the life-devouring beasts not only devour life force but also souls? Jian Chen thought. By now, the group had already set off again. The dead god was abandoned in the wilderness with no one to take care of his corpse. With a wave of his hand, a sharp sword chi immediately shot out, creating a deep pit in the ground. Afterwards, he waved his hand again, and a gust of wind blew the corpse into the pit, burying it there. Only after doing all that did he turn around to leave, catching up to the main group and returning to He Qianqian's side. Yang Yutian, this is the Two World Mountains. The true danger of the Two World Mountains has yet to appear, so I don't wish for you to fall behind. The senses of the soul are greatly limited here. Once you fall behind, no one will come to save you, He Qianqian said coldly as soon as Jian Chen returned to her side. She clearly knew what Jian Chen had gone to do. She said emotionlessly, if you want to emerge from the Two World Mountains alive, you must forsake your benevolence, as a moment of benevolence can doom you for eternity and trap you here forever. I obviously wouldn't joke around with my life. You don't need to worry at all, Miss Qian. Jian Chen broke into a chuckle. However, as soon as he finished speaking, something happened. A huge tree nearby seemed to come to life at that moment. Thousands of branches rained down, stabbing towards the group of people like sharp swords at lightning speed. Immediately, cries rang out in the surroundings. Several hundred cultivators were pierced by the branches. Their life force was drawn away by the branches at a terrifying rate, deposited into the main trunk of the tree. At that moment, the several hundred cultivators lost all of their life force. Even their souls were not spared. They died. After draining all these cultivators of their life force, the energy within the tree suddenly swelled. Its strength was actually forcefully raised to a higher level. It had reached God King from peak over God. This is a life-devouring beast. Oh no, it has actually broken through. Kill it. A great bellow rang out. The leader of the Empire Lotus Sword sect was the bravest. His presence roared, and he killed his way over first. Against the God King life-devouring beast, he did not hold back at all, unleashing his full strength. At the same time, all the other cultivators in the surroundings struck out as well. Various attacks flooded towards the tree-like life-devouring beast. Facing all these attacks, the life-devouring beast took defensive measures. It used its tremendous life force to conjure up a powerful barrier around itself. At the same time, a powerful suction force appeared. Immediately, all the gods and over-gods within a radius of 3,000 meters lost control of their life force, which rapidly gathered towards the life-devouring beast. What a powerful ability! Even the life force within me is stirred. I almost lost control. Yang Yutian, all the guards, attack. Kill the life-devouring beast immediately. He Qianqina called out, and the laws of ice descended. The surrounding temperature abruptly dropped, and large snowflakes began to fall. She formed a seal with both hands and icicles radiating with coldness condensed in the air. They shot towards the tree with coldness so terrifying that they seemed to be able to freeze up the space there. These life-devouring beasts don't seem to be particularly clever. They seem to be moving on instincts alone, or they would be able to understand that with so many cultivators here, they won't be able to survive even if they can kill a few of us, thought Jian Chen. He did not stand aside in this. With a flip of his hand, a supreme quality saint artifact sword appeared, and he produced several strands of sword chi with a few swings. However, the strength he displayed was only a regular early god king's. Boom! 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 With consecutive rumbles, the life-devouring beast's barrier of life force shook and dimmed. However, the life-devouring beast actually managed to withstand all of these attacks alone, even when many of them originated from god kings. They failed to kill it off. At this moment, a resplendent spear of light pierced through the sky and stabbed the dim barrier with great force. The life-devouring beast's barrier was already nearing destruction. Now that it had to withstand the attack from the spear, it immediately crumbled. The spear continued onwards and stabbed into the life-devouring beast's body with a god king's pulse of energy. The wielder of the spear was a prodigy from the Sun family. He seemed to be around 40 years of age, a middle-aged man. However, he was extremely courageous at this moment. He wielded a spear in one hand while both of his feet remained planted in the ground. He suddenly jolted and called out, "Mountain-splitting spear, crack." With that single word, cracks rapidly expanded from where the spear had stabbed into the life-devouring beast. Pieces of wood erupted. However, as soon as the cracks appeared, they closed up due to the life-devouring beast's powerful life force. Such a small wound was unable to pose any threat to it at all. Even more god kings arrived before the life-devouring beast, encircling it. The life-devouring beast's regenerative powers were very powerful, making it almost impossible to kill. However, no matter how quickly it could heal, it could not rival so many people. 10 seconds later, the life-devouring beast was unable to avoid death. It was smashed into pieces by the god kings, reduced to thousands of splinters. Only when the life-devouring beast died did the over-gods and gods become relieved. Before a god king life-devouring beast, they did not even have the right to approach it, let alone fight. They were as helpless as they could be. We actually lost 800 people from this alone. We can't let this continue, or we'll lose more than half of everyone before long, a god king said with an ugly expression as he looked at the cultivators who had fallen to the life-devouring beast. Gods are completely useless within the two world mountains, and the assistance that over-gods can provide is basically non-existent as well. I would advise us to stow them away in the divine halls we carry with us, or the weaker cultivators will just become sustenance for the life-devouring beasts to become stronger. I agree. We can't let everyone die here. Once we get to 100 Saint City, there are more matters for them to attend to. That's right. The place where we can really use them is the 100 Saint City, not the two world mountains. Let's get them all to stay in the divine halls. It'll save them from creating trouble. Everyone reached an agreement very soon. The leaders all produced their divine halls and let in all of their gods and over-gods. With that, the size of the group suddenly shrunk, going from several 100,000 to a few tens of thousand in an instant. They were now a tenth of their original size. All of the people outside were god kings. Of course, over 99% of them were sacrificial soldiers raised through 100 tribulations god king pills. The actual prodigies who had cultivated to god king amounted to less than 1%. As a matter of fact, some of the leaders were not even god kings themselves, so they ended up hiding within their divine halls as well. They gave the divine halls to Jin Hong to keep. With that, Jin Hong now carried over 20 divine halls on him. However, he also obtained the authority over the sacrificial god kings from those organizations as well. Every organization had brought several hundred to over 1,000 sacrificial soldiers. As a result, the sacrificial god kings under Jin Hong's command now amounted to over 20,000. Chapter 2689, Hidden Issues. Damn it, I never thought these insignificant figures that are merely gods and over-gods would receive such special treatment. Jin Hong is a supreme prodigy who gained the legacy of a grand exalt. Without a single doubt, he's the strongest among us. Those people hid in divine halls held by Jin Hong, so not only can they avoid the risk of fighting the life-devouring beasts outside, but it'll even save them from the burden of traveling. The prodigy from the Chu family, Chu Jia, was both jealous and envious as he looked at all the divine halls with Jin Hong. Under Jin Hong's protection, they're more likely to survive than staying outside here. Damn it. If I had known this earlier, I would have broken through to God King later. That way, I too can hide within a divine hall and wait comfortably. There would have been no need for me to take risks outside, Chu Jia thought. He looked at the divine hall that held thousands of gods and over-gods in his own hand and sighed to himself. From the encounter with the tree-shaped life-devouring beast, they had understood that life-devouring beasts did not only take the forms of animals. They could appear as plants as well. If the life-devouring beasts hid well, they would struggle to discover them even if they were nearby. As a result, they had to constantly be on guard against sudden attacks from life-devouring beasts. Not only did they have to keep their guard raised constantly, but it would even become exhausting after a long period of time. All of them would become tired. It was nowhere near as comfortable as remaining in a divine hall. As a result, Chu Jia basically wished he was one of the people who had entered the divine halls. There were quite a lot of people who shared the same thought as Chu Jia among the God King prodigies. From their clashes with the life-devouring beasts, they saw the cultivators who had fallen to the beasts, which made them feel great fear. Most of these prodigies were afraid of death. They were snowflakes, nowhere near as courageous and fearless as the prodigy from the Empire Lotus Sword sect and the others. Young Master Jin Hong, I've only broken through to God King recently. I haven't consolidated my cultivation completely, so I won't be of any help against life-devouring beasts. Why don't you let me enter a divine hall as well? I'll leave all the God King guards under me to your command, young Master Jin Hong. At this moment, the leader of an organization arrived before Jin Hong and spoke meekly, a little like he was sucking up to Jin Hong. His eyes expressed his desire to enter a divine hall. The God King's guards he spoke of were naturally the sacrificial soldiers raised through 100 tribulations God King pills. Guan Wanhua, you're a mighty God King no different from us, yet you're so afraid of death. The Scarlet Light clan should be ashamed for having a descendant like you, said the prodigal God King from the Sun family. He was mocking him. Guan Manhua became completely flushed from that, yet he felt powerless, as most of the God Kings who remained outside were early God Kings, the same as him. As a matter of fact, some of them had even broken through later than him. Guan Wanhua, I'll turn a deaf ear to what you just said. I just hope you understand that at a time like this, not only do you represent yourself, but you also represent the Scarlet Light clan behind you. The Scarlet Light clan is a renowned peak clan in the Saints' world after all. In particular, the Scarlet Light ancestor is a figure of indomitable spirit. As the descendant of the Scarlet Light ancestor, while there's no need for you to share the same indomitable spirit as him, you definitely shouldn't tarnish the Scarlet Light clan's reputation, said Jin Hong. He spoke very mildly, completely without being demanding, yet there was a sense for firmness and courage that seemed to be able to stand up to even death. Yes. Young Master Jin Hong is right, Guan Wanhua replied in shame, no longer willing to bring up the matter of hiding in a divine hall again. Originally, Chu Jia also wanted to hide in a divine hall, but once he saw what had happened with Guan Wanhua, he forgot about it immediately. Jin Hong sure is a man of talent, Jian Chen nodded secretly nearby. Jin Hong was not old either, only having cultivated for under a millennium. To be able to accomplish so much in such a short amount of time and still maintain such a calm and steady mindset really was rare. If he did not die young and manage to mature, his future would definitely be extremely astonishing. The shrunken group gathered back into a circle and continued onwards. They assigned all the God King guards to the edges, while the prodigies gathered in the center. As a result, even if a life-devouring beast attacked, it would come into contact with the sacrificial soldiers first. They could limit the deaths of normal cultivators. After all, sacrificial soldiers could only live for a century at most. Among them, some had already lived for several decades, so they did not have much time left. As a result, it was not too big of a deal to lose them. As the group continued to advance, the gray mist that permeated the mountains and forests became denser and denser. In the end, even god-kings could not see over 100 kilometers away. Fortunately, they still could use the senses of their souls. Through their senses, they could observe everything within a 10-kilometer radius. Jian Chen looked at the obscuring mist and frowned slightly, as he had discovered that as the mist grew thicker, it gradually changed as well. It was actually leaching into his body slowly through his skin, his pores, or even through his lungs, and then remaining inside and devouring his life force. Even though it was not evident at all, enough to fool even Jin Hong who had the legacy of a grand exalt, it was unable to fool Jian Chen who had reached the primordial realm and whose soul had also become extremely sensitive after mutating. Miss Qian, this mist is strange. If you trust me, immediately cloak yourself with energy. Don't let the mist approach your body, Jian Chen said to He Qianqian secretly. He Qianqian turned around and glanced at Jian Chen in surprise. However, she said nothing. Instead, she closed her eyes and tried to sense for something. Jian Chen sighed inside at the sight of this. He knew his warning out of goodwill would probably require some explaining, as these god-kings would not be able to discover the hidden issue in the mist. Let alone god-kings, even some infinite primes would not be able to detect it. The mist seemed like parasites. Once it entered the body, it would silently hide away, fusing with the cultivator. Without any special methods or exceptional cultivation, it was impossible to discover its existence. Lodged within a cultivator's body, it would slowly strengthen through devouring the cultivator's life force. The cultivator would not be able to sense the life force devoured, as the life force would remain within the cultivator's body. No one would be able to discover anything different. The only difference would be that a portion of the life force would no longer belong to the cultivator. I just wonder if this mist in the cultivator's body will change once again once it absorbs life force to a certain existent, Jian Chen thought suddenly. He could not help but think about the life-devouring beasts in the two-world mountains and began to guess and hypothesize. At this moment, He Qianqian opened her eyes and stared at Jian Chen in doubt. Yang Yutian, I haven't discovered anything strange at all. What are you trying to say? The mist here is nowhere near as simple as it seems. It can invade and lurk within the body of people. If they don't guard against it, it will definitely lead to significant problems and unimaginable consequences in the future. As a result, just in case, don't let the mist approach your body. Don't ask me why I know. My senses are much sharper, so I can discover things that you can't, said Jian Chen. He Qianqian looked at Jian Chen in doubt. She seemed like she wanted to understand what he was thinking through his eyes, to understand whether Jian Chen was telling the truth or not. She did not believe Jian Chen at all. She originated from the Heavenly Crane clan. She received the direct guidance of primordial realm experts since a young age, having been filled up with knowledge. She believed her insight was far greater than the ordinary man's, so in her eyes, even if there was something wrong, she should have discovered it first. It was impossible for Jian Chen, who was just an independent cultivator, to find out before her. Not to mention that she had discovered nothing when she tried. He Qianqian snorted in contempt when she heard Jian Chen's explanation that his senses were sharper. Was she, a supreme prodigy from a peak organization who had practiced various ancient secret techniques, not even as great as an independent cultivator? Sensing He Qianqian's doubtful gaze, Jian Chen could not help but feel powerless. Miss Qian, don't worry. I hold no ill intentions towards you. Just listen to me. Jian Chen was unable to find a convincing reason, as he definitely could not afford to expose his strength. Otherwise, once the Dark Star race learned a primordial realm expert had come in from outside, they would definitely raise their guard and prepare precautions against him. It would become far, far more difficult for him to save Sacred Feather like that. He Qianshan put some serious consideration into it before saying, "This place isn't like the Saint's world, where you can absorb the origin energy in the surroundings to replenish your own whenever and wherever you want. If I really do cloak myself in energy, I will consume my origin energy extremely rapidly. I'll go find young Master Jin Hong. He's the successor of a Grand Exalt. Let's see whether he can discover anything wrong. If the mist really is hiding problems, then you would have done a deed of great merit, Yang Yutian. However, if it does not," when she reached there, He Qianshan paused, and her cold eyes suddenly sharpened. She said solemnly, "I hope you understand that in a place like this, once I have discovered you are fooling around with me, the consequences will be thousands of times more severe than any other time." With that, He Qianshan turned back around and approached Jin Hong. Sigh, to return good intentions with ill will. Jian Chen felt powerless. He directly ignored He Qianshan's threat. If he wanted to, he could leave this group whenever he wanted. The Two World Mountains were a hellish place from the perspective of others, but in his eyes, it was like his own backyard. Though, the Two World Mountains are too vast. With the senses of my soul suppressed, I can't get a complete view of this place. Moreover, this world is formed from a huge beast. The area deep underneath the Two World Mountains seems to beat like a huge beast's heart. Every time it thumps, the geography changes, and our location changes slightly as well. It makes this place no different from a labyrinth. If I want to make it out, I have to follow these people. I'll only be able to leave easily through their secret techniques which can sense the location of 100 Saint City, thought Jian Chen. Yang Yutian, have you really discovered something strange about the mist here? Very soon, Jin Hong personally arrived before Jian Chen and asked sternly. Chapter 2690, Teaching a Lesson. Jin Hong's actions attracted the attention of all the prodigies. At that moment, everyone looked at Jian Chen. Especially when they heard Jin Hong's words, their eyes all lit up. They immediately began to sense for something themselves. However, they failed to discover anything strange either. That's right, the mist is indeed different. It's very difficult to say what negative consequences it'll create for us, but we should take precautions just in case, said Jian Chen. You're lying. I've already inspected the mist here, and I haven't discovered anything strange at all. You say there's something off about the mist, so what's so off about it? The prodigy of the Chu family, Chu Jie, stated his doubts as soon as Jian Chen had finished speaking. Even some primordial realm experts would not be able to discover the peculiarity with the mist. It's also because of my extraordinarily sharp senses that I can discover the problem with it. It only makes sense that you can't find anything. Jian Chen crossed his arms and said leisurely, anyhow, I've already warned you all. Whether you believe it or not is your choice. How dare you, Yang Yutian? Who do you think you are that allows you to say something like that to us? Chu Jie's face sank, and his gaze immediately turned hostile. He was already extremely annoyed over the fact that he was forced to cross the Two World Mountains. Now, not only had a mere independent cultivator spoken to him and the other prodigies of peak clans so impolitely, without any hint of respect, but the independent cultivator was even utterly fearless and treated them like nothing significant at all. Chu Jie was unable to accept this and immediately became infuriated. Everyone here is a supreme prodigy from a peak clan. We all possess superior status, so how can we allow you, a mere independent cultivator, to act so rudely? Kneel immediately and bow your head in apology. Otherwise, I'll be the first one to teach you a lesson, Chu Jie said viciously. This independent cultivator really stepped out of his bounds a little. No, he's rather arrogant. Maybe he's a little prideful over the fact that he could become a god king in 1,000 years. He has no idea that something like that really isn't anything special in our eyes. With our status, we only need a single word to end his life, another prodigy added after Chu Jie. He shot a glance at Jian Chen, and his voice was filled with evident arrogance and deep disdain. This independent cultivator has stepped slightly out of line. Jian Chen's casual attitude had become a form of arrogance in the eyes of the prodigies. Immediately, it displeased a portion of them, who sneered. Qianqian's face sank when she heard what they all said. A vicious light flickered through her eyes. In her opinion, no matter how Yang Yutian had spoken, he was a part of her Heavenly Crane clan. Even if he were in the wrong, it would be her Heavenly Crane clan that would deal with him. These outsiders had no right to barge into this. Just when Qianqian was about to say something, Jian Chen cut her off. If you want me to kneel, just you won't be enough. Let alone you lot, even if your ancestors were here in person, they would not be able to make me kneel. Oh no! Qianqian became worried when she heard that. If he had only fallen out with the people here, it would be much easier to deal with. After all, everyone was in a similar position, so no one held fear towards anyone. However, now that Jian Chen had mentioned their ancestors, the matter had become much more severe. Yang Yutian, you're looking to die for slandering my ancestor. Chu Jie flew into a rage. With a flip of his hand, a supreme quality saint artifact sword appeared. A layer of golden, roaring flames from the sun covered the sword and shot towards Jian Chen as a golden streak of light. It's the sword qi of the great sun. That's the sword qi of the great sun from the Chu family. I never thought Chu Jie would use such a powerful battle skill right from the get-go. It looks like he wants to finish him in a single strike. The sword qi of the great sun was created by a great elder of the Chu family with exceptional cultivation through comprehending a high-grade god-tier battle skill. Its power is astonishing, and against opponents of the same level, they'll be left heavily injured even if they avoid death if they don't possess a secret technique of similar power. Chu Jie might seem so cowardly, but he's not weak. There's no need to watch any further. The outcome is predetermined. Even if that independent cultivator called Yang Yutian manages to survive Chu Jie's sword qi of the great sun, he'll suffer miserably. That won't necessarily happen. Yang Yutian was able to become a god king despite being an independent cultivator. He might possess the legacy of some powerful existence. The surrounding prodigies watched on like it was a show. Very few people were optimistic about Jian Chen's fate. However, Jian Chen remained composed. He directly threw a slap. With a crisp sound, Chu Jie's roaring presence from using the sword qi of the great sun ceased. He was knocked aside like a broken kite, flying 100 meters away before landing on the ground miserably. Half of his face had been reduced to a bloody mess. Clearly, no one had expected this. It left the surrounding people either stunned or dazed as they stared at Chu Jie, who was 100 meters away. They were shocked. What just happened? Did anyone see it clearly? That's impossible. Chu Jie was actually sent flying by a slap from Yang Yutian. What? Sent flying by a slap? That's just. Immediately, everyone who had witnessed the event was left dumbstruck. Even Qianqian became speechless. A gleam of interest flickered through Jin Hong's eyes. He stared at Jian Chen fixedly and became stern for the first time. The slap seemed to have left Chu Jie in a daze. He crawled to a feet in some confusion, subconsciously touching the half of his face that had become numb. Only when he saw his bloody hand did he seem to return to his senses. His eyes immediately became bloodshot, and he roared hoarsely, Yang Yutian, I'll kill you. I'll carve you into 1,000,000 pieces. Guards of the Chu family, get him. I want Yang Yutian torn to pieces. With Chu Jie's command, roughly 700 of the sacrificial god kings from the Chu family moved immediately. All of them erupted with the powerful presence of god kings. They were about to execute Jian Chen. Stop. Yang Yutian is a part of my Heavenly Crane clan. Chu Jie, do you plan on becoming enemies with my Heavenly Crane clan? Qianqian stood forward in time. With her action, the several hundred sacrificial soldiers of the Heavenly Crane clan took a step forward as well, stopping the guards of the Chu family. Chu Jie, I don't care about any personal grievances you have with Yang Yutian, but if you plan on using your guards, I can't just stand by, He Qianqian said coldly. I have suffered such great humiliation, which can only be washed away with his blood. I must kill him today. He Qianqian, do you really plan on stopping me today? Chu Jie ground his teeth. His eyes were filled with resentment. Kill me? Just by you? Jian Chen said coldly. In the next moment, he appeared before Chu Jie like he had teleported and grabbed Chu Jie by the neck before lifting him up. Would you believe that if I want you to die right now, even all your guards won't be able to protect you? Chapter 2691, Exposure of Ability. Jian Chen's voice was filled with killing intent. It did seem a little like an adult harassing children when he stooped to the level of these measly god kings. It did not match his identity much at all. However, every person had a temper, and they could lose it. Chu Jie's actions had clearly crossed Jian Chen's bottom line. If it were just some petty matters, Jian Chen would not be bothered at all. However, since it was about respect and dignity, it was no longer petty. The dignity of primordial realm experts could not be impinged on. Jian Chen raised Chu Jie into the air by the neck. Chu Jie struggled desperately with his feet. He also tried to pry away Jian Chen's hands instinctively, but he just seemed so powerless before Jian Chen with his cultivation at early God King. Moreover, Jian Chen had restricted him with a great power as he gripped Chu Jie's neck. Under the restriction, Chu Jie's movement was unaffected, but he had lost control of the power within his body. At that moment, the surroundings fell silent completely. Jian Chen had moved just too suddenly, so fast that many of the prodigies present were unable to react. All of the prodigies stared at the struggling Chu Jie who had been lifted off his feet by his neck in shock. Their heads had blanked out. In their opinion, Chu Jie was not one of the particularly powerful god kings, but he was still a god king nonetheless. However, he was actually so flimsy before an independent cultivator who was also a god king. He was so frail. It had completely overturned their prior beliefs. He Qianqian was surprised as well. She thought about how even if she used her full strength, she would not be able to grab Chu Jie so effortlessly. As a matter of fact, it would take quite some effort for her to defeat him. Yet, the young Yutian who had always maintained a low profile by her side had caught Chu Jie right from the start. He even seemed to have done so leisurely. Clearly, it took him no effort. How did Yang Yutian suddenly become so powerful? He's definitely no ordinary god king. He Qianqian was shocked. Yang Yutian is actually so powerful, and from his appearance, he doesn't seem to be using his full strength. Good. In somewhere as dangerous as the Two World Mountains, we need powerful people like him. The more people like him we have, the more likely we are to emerge from the Two World Mountains alive. Jin Hong was surprised as well. He stared at Jian Chen and became slightly excited. Stop, Yang Yutian. What are you doing? Hurry up and release Chu Jie. At this moment, a prodigy on good terms with Chu Jie returned to his senses and immediately bellowed out. Several dozen sacrificial god kings surrounded Jian Chen in an instant. Perhaps due to being deterred by the strength Jian Chen had suddenly displayed, the prodigy and his people dared not stand too close to Jian Chen when they surrounded him. He pointed at Jian Chen with a trembling hand as his eyes turned bloodshot like a wild beast. That's impossible. We're both god kings, so how did he knock me away in a single strike? I couldn't even react. The three other prodigies were much calmer. They closely recalled what had happened earlier. As they felt humiliated, they also broke out in cold sweat. Oh no, protect the young master, everyone. Kill that person. At the same time, bellows rang out from among the sacrificial soldiers. All of them began to move, drawing supreme quality saint artifacts as they charged at Jian Chen. Reckless. Jian Chen snorted coldly. He formed a sword with his finger, and immediately, a silver-white stream shot out. He had condensed a sword from a simple strand of sword qi. He waved his sword, and a crescent sword qi immediately shot out. Wherever it passed by, the space distorted and pulsed. Under the pulsing of space, the sword qi suddenly erupted in speed, traveling several times faster. It passed through 8 god kings at an unbelievable pace. The 8 god kings only felt their waists scream out in agony. In the next moment, their bodies separated. They had been bisected along their waist. However, they were not dead. As long as their souls remained intact, they could recover from flesh wounds. Jian Chen clearly had no intentions of killing them. He had only injured them and did not target their souls. Fall into formation. Having witnessed Jian Chen's strength, the other guards reacted immediately. They quickly gathered together and prepared a formation. Chapter 2692, Catching Jin Hong's attention. Seeing how seriously the situation had developed, He Qianqian became extremely stern. However, she knew that she could not allow Jian Chen to continue acting recklessly like this, or the situation would develop beyond control. Moreover, this was the 2 world mountains. Danger lurked around every corner. They did not even know whether they could get out of here alive. At a time like this, they needed everyone to stand united. They could not afford any internal strife. Our Heavenly Crane clan was the one who brought Yang Yutian on this expedition. As long as we are still in the 2 world mountains, Yang Yutian is a member of our Heavenly Crane clan. I need to stop it here, or once things spiral out of control, it'll be difficult for me to explain it to the Great Elder after I get out. He Qianqian made up her mind. Just when she wanted to stand forward and risk offending the prodigies of the several large clans, Jin Hong's voice rang out in her head, "Hold on. Let's wait and see. Young Master Jin Hong, if you continue to do nothing, the consequences will only become worse," He Qianqian replied. "It's not an issue. Holding back their 5 clans is a piece of cake. I want to see Yang Yutian's strength," Jin Hong refuted calmly. His focus remained on Jian Chen as he added, "Yang Yutian has hidden himself very well. He had always been holding on to all his cards, even behaving like he was nothing special against the life-devouring beasts. He was so ordinary that even I ignored him. Only now have I discovered just how powerful he actually is. Moreover, I don't even think this is his full strength." Surprise flashed through He Qianqian's eyes. She had never thought the God King she recruited would be so capable. If Jin Hong were right, that would mean Yang Yutian was much stronger than her. With Jin Hong speaking out, He Qianqian immediately became less worried. Jin Hong stared straight at Jian Chen. Surprise appeared in his eyes from time to time as he thought, when I approached Yang Yutian earlier, the power of my bloodline actually roused uncontrollably. What does Yang Yutian possess that can actually influence my bloodline? Jian Chen's battle against the sacrificial soldiers formally began to the other side. The God Kings had all received special training, raised for the purpose of battle. At this crucial moment, they unleashed everything they had learnt in the past. With a single order, 46 God Kings stood in a special order, creating a large formation in an extremely short amount of time. The formation poured together the power of the 64 people. It was so powerful that even peak God Kings would face life-threatening danger against it. It could even kill peak God Kings. The formation was not particularly effective against life-devouring beasts, as any life-devouring beast that could force them to use it would be powerful and would be able to drain their life force before the beast had gotten anywhere close to them. However, the full might of the formation was unleashed against other cultivators. Any formation would require a certain amount of time to create. Despite having gone through repetitive training, the sacrificial god kings required a few seconds. Why would Jian Chen just watch them create their formation? Even after the formation was created, they still would not pose any threat to Jian Chen, but it would force him to expose even more of his strength. He obviously did not want to end up in such a situation. Jian Chen extended his fingers several times, and resplendent sword qi shot out each time. Each strand of sword qi was under the influence of the laws of space whenever they shot out, allowing them to move extremely quickly, almost like they were teleporting. They were much faster than the God King's reactions, so it arrived before the sacrificial soldiers in the blink of an eye. Spurt. 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 The sword qi penetrated the foreheads of a few God Kings, killing them off on the spot as they tried to fall into formation. Jian Chen ended their lives mercilessly. As a result of their deaths, the powerful formation was interrupted before it could even be created. Yang Yutian can actually use the laws of the sword and the laws of space to such an unbelievable level. His strength has already surpassed most of the prodigies here. The laws of the sword is one of the laws with the greatest offensive power, while the laws of space can allow him to overcome the issue of distance. With that combination, just how many of us are his opponent, even if we're also God Kings? The expressions of the surroundings prodigies changed. None of them could remain calm. Their opinions of Jian Chen underwent a drastic change, as the strength that Jian Chen displayed had surpassed most of them. Not only did this nameless independent cultivator reach God King within 1,000 years like everyone else, but he was even much stronger. It gave these prodigies who were nurtured since young by their clans quite a horrible feeling. Yang Yutian must have received an outstanding legacy. A mere infinite prime's legacy is nowhere near enough for him to grow to such an astonishing level. He Qianshan was taken aback as well. Quick, use the 8 absolute killing formation. Seeing how the larger formation could not be completed, the sacrificial god kings shifted and formed groups of 8, creating a different formation instead. This time, due to the smaller groups, it took them much less time to fall into formation. They completed it almost immediately. In that moment, 7-8 absolute killing formations arose and pulsed with energy. In the next moment, 7 powerful streams of energy shot out from the formations, surging towards Jian Chen with great might as the prodigies reacted. The 8 absolute killing formation is enough to threaten mid-god kings. As a matter of fact, ordinary mid-god kings would suffer before the formation, let alone the fact that there are 7 of them. Yang Yutian is probably done for. I wonder if Yang Yutian can stop the 8 absolute killing formations. If he can, he's just too terrifying. The strength that Yang Yutian has displayed isn't particularly clear. He seems like an early god king, yet he is also like a mid-god king. But he's definitely not a late god king. No matter what his strength is, he'll suffer even if he survives, you never know. Maybe Yang Yutian has some trump card that he hasn't used yet. I refuse to believe he doesn't have a powerful battle skill or two. All of the prodigies observed things from the surroundings like they were watching a show. They indicated that they would not interfere with the battle or help anyone. Jian Chen finally became stern before the 7 formations. Of course, this was all an act for the prodigies so that he would not appear to be overly powerful. Afterwards, he formed a hand seal, and a powerful sword qi sprang up from his body. He bellowed, "Daluo, sword," immediately, the tremendous might of the world descended. Golden light rose up, condensing into 7 strands of resplendent, golden sword qi. Jian Chen had stopped using this move a long time ago. It was the Daluo sword. Due to it being at too low of a grade, it was already useless to him because he was at the primordial realm, which was why Jian Chen had stopped using it. However, at a time like this, it was perfect for him to fake the Daluo sword as a powerful battle skill. He could use it to explain why his battle prowess had suddenly erupted. The 7 strands of sword qi crossed through the air with a flash. They were like 7 galaxies, colliding with the streams of energy from the formations. With a deafening rumble, the streams of energy were bisected by the golden sword qi. The sword qi seemed unstoppable, tearing through whatever blocked its way. After slicing through the energy, they landed on the formations mercilessly. Blood spurted from the mouths of all the god kings in the formations, and they were sent flying like fallen leaves. They were heavily injured. To the other side, Jian Qin stood unscathed. Only his face was slightly pale. Of course, the paleness was an act as well, it was just to show everyone that it was extremely burdensome to use the Daluo sword. Chapter 2693, Settling down. The surroundings were silenced. Not only had Jian Chen's great display of might by dispersing 7-8 absolute killing formations alone stunned all of the prodigies present, but even a few of the sacrificial god kings who were about to charge towards Jian Chen were shocked. Immediately, the several hundred remaining sacrificial soldiers began to hesitate. They all looked at Jian Chen warily and fearfully. They were sacrificial soldiers, but that did not mean they could not feel fear, dread, and so on. Apart from a lifespan of just 100 years, they were no different from ordinary people. You bunch of idiots, what are you standing there for? Go get him together. Kill him. I want him dead without a corpse. Tear him to pieces. Chu Jia climbed to his feet from under a tree several hundred meters away. With a vicious expression, he bellowed at the sacrificial soldiers of the Chu family. People of the Zhangqiong clan, listen up. Go get him together. Reduce Yang Yutian to nothing. Kong Feiying also bellowed out. What humiliation, oh what a disgrace. Yang Yutian, how dare you treat me like this? All sacrificial soldiers of the Gong clan, kill Yang Yutian. Gong Rui's also screeched furiously. Yang Yutian, no one can save you today. If the Heavenly Crane clan wants to save you, I'll destroy the Heavenly Crane clan first. It has always been us who were allowed to harass others. Who dares to harass us? You're a mere independent cultivator, yet you're so arrogant. Yang Yutian, I will never spare you today. From now onwards, our Yuqiong sect, Zhao clan, Gong clan, Zhangqiong clan, and Chu family will be forming an alliance. Whoever stands in our way of killing Yang Yutian will be an enemy of our 5 organizations. The prodigies from the 5 clans were furious. They were all brimming with killing intent as they looked at Jian Chen venomously. They were tempted to tear Jian Chen into pieces. They had been utterly humiliated in public. How could these 5 prodigies who had grown up in peak organizations with great status endure something like that? If the person who had humiliated them was Jin Hong instead, they would actually feel a little better, as both Jin Hong's strength and background were greater than them, making him someone they could not afford to offend. However, Jian Chen was a mere independent cultivator, which made the circumstances differ vastly. These prodigies looked down on independent cultivators from the bottom of their hearts. Even if it were a slightly more powerful independent cultivator, they would still be nothing in their eyes. With the prodigy's statuses, they could summon a primordial realm expert on their whim to easily crush the independent cultivator. I've already shown mercy. If you keep being stubborn, don't blame me if you end up dead. Jian Chen's eyes turned cold, and with a swing of his hand, a sword appeared, shining brightly. The sword was a supreme quality saint artifact. He had specially prepared it for the world of the fallen beast. Look, Yang Yutian has already drawn his saint artifact. He has fought for so long, yet Yang Yutian hasn't even drawn a weapon. He has been fighting empty-handed. I thought he didn't have a saint artifact that suited him but never did I think he was hiding it the whole time. He has only drawn it now. That sword has probably reached the peak of supreme grade saint artifacts, making it only worse than god artifacts. Maybe you can already call it half a god artifact. He was actually even hiding a supreme quality saint artifact equivalent to half of a god artifact. Yang Yutian wasn't using his full strength earlier. Yang Yutian is far too powerful. I really don't know how he can grow to such an astonishing level as an independent cultivator. None of us can match him. The faces of the observing prodigies changed. Many of them stared at the sword in Jian Chen's hand, and their fear deepened. He Qianqian remained in a daze. Jian Chen had torn through the formations from several dozen god kings all alone, which was far too much of a shock to her. She knew that even she herself did not possess the ability to do that. The strength that Jian Chen had displayed right now completely surpassed her own. Get him together. Some of you, keep Yang Yuqian busy, while the others all fall into formation. Kill him, the 5 prodigies ordered together to another side. They were extremely confident that they could kill Jian Chen. Jian Chen's threats were ignored by them. This time, all the sacrificial soldiers that belonged to the 5 organizations set off. It was no longer a few dozen but a few thousand. The sacrificial soldiers swallowed their fear towards Jian Chen and immediately split into 2 groups. Some of them directly charged towards Jian Chen to keep him busy, while the others began to assemble into formations. Each formation was composed of several hundred god kings. Their might had surpassed the boundary of god kings. All of you stop. This matter ends here. Anyone who strikes out will be executed on the spot. At this moment, a bellow rang out. It was thunderous, deafening many people. Even the ground trembled. It also sounded like the howl of an ancient wolf god, possessing the power to stun one's soul. The souls of the several thousand sacrificial soldiers all jolted, and they blanked out. Jin Hong stepped forward from the ground. He did not give off any astonishing presence, remaining as ordinary as before. He walked over slowly, heading right towards the sacrificial soldiers. Even though he did not give off any particular aura, his appearance made the god kings feel like they were facing a towering mountain. All of them could not help but back off. Hu Jie, Zhao Wenbin, Kong Feiying, Gong Ruiz, and Zhou Ji, the people who had been disgraced by Jian Chen, all changed in expression. They suppressed their sense of resentment, which made their faces warp a little. Young Master Jin Hong, do you plan on interfering with the matters of our 5 organizations? We've already announced earlier that anyone who tries to save Yang Yuqian will face our 5 organizations, Zhou Ji said grimly. Jin Hong remained calm. This is the 2 world mountains, not the outside. If there were small arguments, so be it, but once a large-scale conflict occurs, I must stop it, or the activity will draw over many life-devouring beasts. The consequences are unthinkable. Please do not bring disaster upon all of us over your personal grievances. Jin Hong was straightforward. He had spoken on behalf of everyone. He did not take a side. As for becoming enemies with your 5 organizations, Jin Hong slowly glanced past the 5 of them. His gaze gradually turned cold. You still don't represent the organizations that support you yet, so what right do you have in becoming enemies of me? Jin Hong, Yu Dash, Chu Jia and the others were furious. They looked at Jin Hong as they fumed. There was nothing that they could say. Enough. Let's disperse and return to our positions. Once we get out of the 2 world mountains, I won't interfere with your personal grievances, but in the 2 world mountains, we must think of the bigger picture, or I won't show any mercy, Jin Hong said firmly, directly dispersing the sacrificial soldiers of the 5 clans. In the end, the disturbance ended with Jin Hong's interference. Within the group, Jin Hong clearly held a status of authority that no one could match. There were not many people who dared to stand up to him openly. Yang Yuqian, you said earlier that the mist here is strange. Can you go into further detail? Afterwards, Jin Hong arrived before Jian Chen and asked sternly. However, he thought to himself curiously, my bloodline has roused once again. Just what is Yang Yuqian carrying? Why does my bloodline rouse every time I come near him? And the bloodline is producing emotions of excitement and desire. Whatever that is on him must be extremely beneficial to me. Chapter 2694, Secret Thoughts. Although doubtful, Jin Hong showed none of it. He remained composed, acting like nothing had happened at all. He only appeared concerned over the issue regarding the mist that Jian Chen had mentioned. However, unbeknownst to Jin Hong, when his bloodline roused, the droplet of blood from the ancient skywolf actually warmed up simultaneously. It trembled gently as warmth flooded Jian Chen's heart. The droplet of blood has actually acted up again, this is already the second time. Through the blood, I can actually vaguely sense the bloodline within Jin Hong. It looks like it was no coincidence that Jin Hong could obtain the recognition of the ancient Skywolf's legacy out of all the prodigies that the Wolf clan had to offer. It seems like it's because a sliver of the ancient Skywolf's bloodline flows through his body. It's just that the bloodline has become extremely thin. Jian Chen thought to himself. Through the droplet of blood, not only could he sense Jin Hong's bloodline, but he could even sense the activity from Jin Hong's bloodline, which allowed him to understand that Jin Hong had already become aware of the existence of the droplet of blood. However, Jian Chen also acted like nothing had happened. He replied to Jin Hong calmly, I've only discovered some traces of strangeness regarding the mist due to my abnormally sharp senses. I don't know anything else other than that. Yang Yutian, it's not that I don't believe you. You just need to understand that this isn't the saint's world. We can't absorb energy from the surroundings to replenish our consumed energy. We have to replenish it through divine crystals. We're in the two-world mountains as well, so we might have to fight the life-devouring beasts at any time. The energy consumption in battle will be extremely great, so we have to ration whatever energy we have. If we cloak ourselves with energy purely because of an unreliable gut feeling of yours, it'll be quite a burden for us, which will slow us down, said the prodigy from the Empire Lotus Sword sect. He spoke to Jian Chen as an equal. Clearly, after the prior battle, the prodigies here no longer dared to look down on Jian Chen. He had won all of their respect. Young Master Jin Hong, may I ask if you've discovered anything? He Qian asked. Jin Hong remained silent. He looked away from Jian Chen, shifting his gaze to the shrouding, gray mist. After a moment of silence, he said slowly, I haven't discovered any abnormalities, but I feel uneasy for some reason. I don't know whether that sense of unease comes from the life-devouring beasts or elsewhere. However, just in case, I would advise you all to cloak yourselves in energy and avoid contact with the mist. With that, Jin Hong took the lead and tremendous energy immediately flowed out from his body, forming a barrier around him. With Jin Hong's lead, several dozen prodigies followed him reluctantly. They began to protect themselves with energy. Even their sacrificial god-kings did the same. In the end, roughly two-thirds of the prodigies decided to expend their energy for barriers. There were still a few people who refused to believe this. They were unwilling to waste the energy for nothing. Damn it. Now, we have to be holding divine crystals at all times. We have to replenish whatever energy we waste at all times. The journey is no longer as easy as before, someone grumbled inside. Yang Yutian, I really do hope that this mist is like what you have described. If I find out you have been toying with us, I might not be able to do anything to you in the world of the Forsaken Beast, but I'll surely make you suffer once I return to the Saints' world. There are still some people who haven't cloaked themselves with energy. I guess that works too. I'll just let them continue like this and see if there really is anything strange about the mist or not. Everyone set off once more. Jian Chen put up an act and cloaked himself in a thin layer of light, walking beside He Qian. You must have expended a great deal of energy in the battle before. Here's a pill for recovering origin energy. Eat it. In the two-world mountains, we must be at our peak conditions at all times. He Qian passed a pill to Jian Chen. She no longer spoke as coldly as before. Her attitude towards Jian Chen had clearly undergone a drastic change. It's no issue. I didn't use too much energy in the battle before. I can return to my peak form through divine crystals very quickly. Jian Chen turned down He Qianqian's offer of the pill. With a flip of his hand, several supreme-grade divine crystals appeared. He clenched a few divine crystals in each hand and acted like he was working hard on recovering. From behind, Chu Jie, Gong Rui's, Kong Feiying, Zhou Ji, and Zhao Wenbin all stared at Jian Chen venomously. They swore oaths. Yang Yutian, once you leave the world of the fallen beast, I'll make you die a graveless death. If I want to kill Yang Yutian, there's no need to leave the world of the fallen beast. We only need to reach 100 Saint City, and we'll be able to deal with him, said Chu Jie. That's right. With our status, would killing Yang Yutian pose any difficulty? If it were not for Jin Hong's interference, Yang Yutian would have died to the killing formation from the several hundred god kings of the Chu family. He can deal with the 8 absolute killing formations composed of 8 god kings, but can he deal with 100 tribulations formation composed of several hundred god kings? Zhou Ji said. The 100 tribulations formation is specially prepared for primordial realm experts. No matter how powerful Yang Yutian is, can he surpass primordial realm experts? Once the formation is completed, he will be dead for sure. Let's find a chance to finish him off once we leave the 2 world mountains. Chu Jie's eyes shone viciousness. The disgrace he had felt today would become a permanent stain to his name. He utterly hated Jian Chen. Humph, this had nothing to do with me originally. Zhou Ji, you just had to stand forward and play the good guy. Now you've done it. Not only have you thrown yourself into the matter, but we've also suffered as well, Gong Rui's fumed. He wanted to kill Jian Chen, but he was also extremely resentful towards Zhou Ji who had stood up for Chu Jie. Zhou Ji, you've screwed me over this time, Zhou Wenbin and Kong Feiying added with sunken voices. Zhou Ji was bitter. He actually remained silent. At that moment, he felt a tinge of regret too. If he had known that Jian Chen was so strong, he would have never stood forward. Everyone continued through the 2 world mountains on foot at a pace that was extremely slow to god kings. They did not travel in a straight line. Instead, they constantly changed directions. Due to the moving geography of the 2 world mountains, the ground would shake like an earthquake from time to time, making the geography change slightly. Consequently, the direction they traveled in would veer off as well. They completely relied on a secret technique to determine the location of the distant 100 Saint City through a slight connection, which prevented them from getting lost. As such, they stayed on track. In the blink of an eye, it had already been 3 days since Jian Chen and Chu Jie fought. During those 3 days, they were attacked by several life-devouring beasts. The life-devouring beasts varied in strength, where the strongest had even reached mid-god king. The battle that time was the most intense one they had experienced since they entered the world of the fallen beast. Even Jin Hong, the one known to be the strongest in the group, personally took action. However, even with that being the case, their group suffered quite the loss. Several dozen sacrificial god kings died. The mid-god king life-devouring beast could devour the life force of the early god kings with great ease as it fought them. As such, it could rapidly recover its wounds no matter how severe they were. It was truly an unkillable monster. Chapter 2695, Life-Devouring Beast. Heard as a matter of fact, without any exaggeration, life-devouring beasts were basically invincible among their respective cultivation levels within the 2 world mountains. Every single one of them was equivalent to a supreme prodigy from the saints' world. Although they did not possess attacks as powerful as the supreme prodigies, their tenacity was far beyond anything the supreme prodigies could match. Their life force was just too powerful, and their regeneration was similarly terrifying. A cultivator fighting a life-devouring beast with the same cultivation would never be able to kill it. They would only die after exhausting all their energy. Jian Chen believed that if there were a peak God King life-devouring beast, probably only the supreme prodigies from the God King's throne would be able to deal with it. Even someone like Jin Hong who had received a Grand Exalt's legacy might not be able to handle such a life-devouring beast. Jin Hong was a mid-God King. He could easily kill most late God Kings, where even peak God Kings would not be his opponent. However, these God Kings were all ordinary ones. A tremendous difference existed between them and God Kings from the God King's throne. They were people on completely different levels. Yang Yutian, you clearly said there are issues with the mist, but it has already been 3 days, so why are we still standing here fine? Chu Jia said suddenly. He was still resentful over the grievances he had suffered 3 days ago. He purposefully acted against Jian Chen. Not only has everyone expended a tremendous amount of origin energy against the life-devouring beasts in the past 3 days, but everyone has even had to cloak themselves with energy at all times. The rate of depletion is much faster than anyone can replenish their energy through divine crystals. In my opinion, if this continues, we'll probably die from exhaustion before we can even make it out of the 2 world mountains, Zhou Ji added with ulterior motives as well. Yang Yutian, what are you scheming? Tell us, what hidden agenda do you have? The prodigies who had no grievances with Jian Chen obviously would not go provoke someone as powerful as him. However, the 5 prodigies who had previously suffered at his hands did not care. They would never spare Jian Chen whenever the opportunity arose. Keep complaining, as you probably won't be able to complain anymore after a while, Jian Chen said coldly. He casually glanced past the other prodigies who had not cloaked themselves in energy. He could sense that the mist gathered within their bodies had reached a critical point. Something astonishing was probably about to happen within 2 days. However, Jian Chen did not tell anyone. He had already warned them anyway. He would not interfere with the decisions of others, nor was he willing to interfere. Moreover, it was perfect since he could use these people to test out just what dangers the mist posed to cultivators. Yang Yutian, what do you mean by that? The expressions of the 5 prodigies changed, as if they had reached tipping point. Yang Yutian, just endure it and ignore them. Don't stoop as low as them. Once we make it out of the 2 world mountains, I'll definitely make things right for you, he Qianxian comforted in a hurry, as she was afraid that Jian Chen would clash with the 5 of them again. Stop the unreasonable provocation, or it'll only affect our sense of unity. In the 2 world mountains, I refuse to allow anything to happen to our sense of unity. If anyone refuses, please leave our group and travel alone, Jin Hong added. Although Jin Hong had spoken firmly and appeared to be considering for the greater good, it was possible to discern that he favored Jian Chen a little. Chu Jia and the others all came from peak organizations in the Saints' world and possessed great power, while Jian Chen was just an independent prodigy. He might have possessed extraordinary battle prowess, but in a different time and place, these prodigies would still not take him seriously. Jin Hong risked offending 5 large organizations to hold back Chu Jia, O Ji, Gong Rui's, Zhao Wenbin, and Kong Feiying, which was equivalent to protecting Jian Chen. The faces of the 5 of them immediately changed after hearing Jin Hong's words. They understood the dangers of the 2 world mountains very well. If they were really expelled from the group, none of them had the confidence of emerging from this place alive. At this moment, a dense series of fluttering sounds suddenly appeared. Gales whipped through the surroundings and whirlwinds composed of powerful energy wreaked havoc. The sudden occurrence made Jin Hong's face abruptly change. At that moment, he could no longer remain composed. He called out, "Oh no, it's a life-devouring beast herd. There's a large group of life-devouring beasts attacking us. Everyone, prepare for battle." What? A life-devouring beast herd? Damn it, there's trouble now. The most terrifying encounter would be life-devouring beast herds in the 2 world mountains because according to the records, each herd has a beast king. The larger the herd, the more powerful the beast king is, it looks like we've still ended up encountering a life-devouring beast herd in the end. Sigh. Everyone's faces changed drastically when they heard that. Many of them became sheet white, and Chu Jie's legs began to shake uncontrollably. At the same time, tremendous figures appeared in the range of everyone's senses. They were all 3 to 4 meters long, winged, green wolves. There was a tremendous number of them. Just the giant wolves that had appeared within everyone's senses amounted to several dozen, and that was not all. Who knows how many more were hidden beyond the range of their senses. There are over 1,000 life-devouring beasts, but fortunately most of them are below God King. There are around 50 at early God King and 3 at mid-God King, Jian Chen thought. He glanced past the several tens of thousand God Kings on his side and knew that they would probably have to pay a great price this time. However, there's a life-devouring beast that has remained stationary 200 kilometers away. It has reached late God King. It should be the beast king of this herd. Jian Chen's eyes glimmered. He knew that they had intruded upon the territory of this herd of life-devouring beasts. Once they alarmed the late God King Beast King, the consequences would be severe. He completely understood the strength of the Beast King. As the king of a herd, it would be much more powerful than most late God King life-devouring beasts. Even Jin Hong would only be able to flee before it. The group had already begun fighting with the herd. A few deity and god life-devouring beasts were slain by the numerous God Kings as soon as they appeared. From a single wave of attacks, several dozen deity and god life-devouring beasts were beaten to a pulp. Before the numerous sacrificial God Kings, only over-god life-devouring beasts could last for a moment, but they could only last for a moment at most. The difference in strength and numbers claimed the lives of these over-god life-devouring beasts. The battle below God King was one-sided. The life-devouring beasts suffered severe casualties. However, the battle between the God Kings was extremely intense. Over 50 early God King life-devouring beasts rampaged through a group of sacrificial soldiers. They constantly fluttered their wings and moved extremely quickly, sweeping through the crowd and constantly chomping down on the sacrificial soldiers. As they carried the God Kings in their mouths, they rapidly drained their life force while dodging the incoming attacks with great agility, avoiding being hit. As the God King's life force was devoured, the life-devouring beasts gradually grew stronger. It had only been a few seconds since the battle started, but several dozen sacrificial God Kings had already died to the mouths of the winged wolves. This number only increased. Chapter 2696, A Grand Exalt Secret Technique. Jin Hong became stern as well. He said grimly, there are actually over 50 God King life-devouring beasts. This is the most dangerous threat we've encountered ever since we entered the Two World Mountains. Yang Yutian, let's kill these life-devouring beasts quickly so that we can minimize our casualties. The early God King life-devouring beasts obviously could not annihilate Jin Hong's group, but it would shave away a portion of the group's strength, which would weaken them greatly. None of the prodigies here had entered the world of the fallen beast to fight against the life-devouring beasts. They had come to visit 100 Saint City and control the various incidents happening in the city. If they lost too much power here, even if they emerged from the Two World Mountains successfully, they would not have the strength to deal with what was going on in 100 Saint City. By then, it would be pointless for them to have entered the world of the fallen beast in the first place. Jin Hong understood this extremely well, which was why he told Jian Chen to take action immediately. Within the group, only he and Jian Chen could kill these life-devouring beasts quickly, and with the death of each beast, a few extra sacrificial God Kings would be able to survive. Right after Jin Hong finished speaking, before he even had the opportunity to take action, 3 presences that surpassed early God Kings suddenly swept forth. They were as heavy as mountains, flooding the entire battlefield. Jin Hong immediately discovered the 3 10-meter-long, winged wolves in the mist within the limited range he could sense of around 20 kilometers. Their dull, unintelligent eyes shone with blood-red light as they steadily approached the battlefield. Oh no, mid-God King life-devouring beasts. Jin Hong's face changed, and he immediately alerted the prodigies there. What? More mid-God King life-devouring beasts? And 3 at the same time, we encountered a mid-God King life-devouring beast a few days ago, which took a heavy toll on us. It took us a tremendous amount of effort to kill it, yet 3 have appeared at the same time now. How are we supposed to deal with this? Aside from Jian Chen, the expressions of all the other prodigies present changed. Even He Qianqian's heart grew heavy. The strength of the life-devouring beast they had encountered a few days ago had left a permanent impression in everyone's mind. It was already so difficult to kill alone, yet 3 had come now. Many of the prodigies became despaired. Mid-God King life-devouring beasts are no weaker than late God Kings. If I use my full strength, I should be able to kill one, Jin Hong said sternly before looking at Jian Chen. I think I can keep one busy, Jian Chen said with uncertainty, acting as if he were not very confident. All right then. I'll deal with one of the 3 life-devouring beasts. Yang Yutian will handle another, and the last one shouldn't pose a problem if you all work together. Yang Yutian, no matter what you do, you have to keep the life-devouring beast busy for an hour. I will kill the one I'm fighting within the hour, and then I'll come to assist you immediately, Jin Hong said sternly. Brother Yang Yutian, as long as you can keep it busy for an hour, you will have helped our group tremendously. All of us will owe you a favor. Once we make it out of the 2 world mountains and Chu Jie plans on making more trouble for you, I, Ping Yisheng, will definitely be standing on your side, said a prodigy. His name was Ping Yisheng, the leader of the Empire Lotus Sword sect. Count me in. My Sun family isn't afraid of their Chu family, Gong clan, Zhao clan, Sangqiong clan, and Yuqiong sect, the leader of the Sun family, Sun Ji, added as well. My Man family as well. With that, over a dozen large clans voiced their support of Jian Chen. This warped Chu Jie, Kong Feiying, Zhou Ji, Zhao Wenbin, and Gong Rui's faces greatly, as if it were disastrous. By now, Jin Hong had already flown off first, engaging in a battle against a mid-God King life-devouring beast. Booms constantly rang out. It was extremely intense. Jian Chen did not make too much idle talk with them. He clasped his fist at them before shooting off in Jin Hong's direction in a flash. Very soon, he was locked in battle against a second life-devouring beast. Regarding the third life-devouring beast, the remaining prodigies led a few sacrificial god kings with them and surrounded it. Several hundred people took part in the encirclement. Everyone, lock down on your life force. We can't let our life force become energy that strengthens the life-devouring beast. Jian Chen and Jin Hong were better off. As long as the life-devouring beasts did not land a blow on them, they would not be able to absorb their life force. However, the prodigies who faced the third life-devouring beast were not so fortunate. Their life force would be automatically siphoned away once they approached a certain range. Even if they did all that they could to lock it down, it would still flow away slowly. All of the life force would be siphoned into the life-devouring beast's body, allowing it to constantly strengthen instead. They were helpless with this. They could only grit their teeth and endure it. They could not reduce the number of people taking part in the attack. Due to the difference in cultivation, an extremely wide gap existed between them and the life-devouring beast. They needed an absolute numerical advantage to keep it at bay. Only then would the possibility of survival be greater. If the sacrificial god kings were not present, the life-devouring beast definitely would not be able to absorb as much life force, but a few of the prodigies would die as well. None of them wished to die, which was why they would much rather let the life-devouring beast gradually strengthen than send away the sacrificial god kings. Immediately, the situation was divided into 4 battlefields. The three mid-God King life-devouring beasts occupied a battlefield each, where the God Kings maintained a safe distance to prevent their life force from being drained. The fourth battlefield was composed of a large group of sacrificial God Kings encircling a group of early God King life-devouring beasts. The early God King life-devouring beasts had been reduced to around 40 now. Almost 10 of them had been slain within the encirclement, but the sacrificial God Kings had paid quite a hefty price as well. Quite a few of them had died. Blessing of the Wolf Exalt. Suddenly, Jin Hong bellowed out, and energy surged into the form of a giant wolf. The wolf was blurry and unclear, but as soon as it appeared, a paramount pressure permeated the surroundings, as if it were the ruler of the space here. The ancient Sky Wolf. Jian Chen looked at the blurry wolf from afar. Even though it was so blurry that he could no longer make out its appearance, he could still tell that it was a past sovereign of the world. It was an expert who had reached the limits of Grand Prime, comprehending an entire law and was basically equivalent to the heavenly ways. It was an ancient Sky Wolf. As soon as the figure appeared, Jin Hong's battle prowess multiplied. As for the winged life-devouring beasts, they all paused at that moment, as if they were influenced by the ancient Skywolf's presence. Whether it be the early God King life-devouring beasts or the three mid-God King life-devouring beasts, they all became temporarily stunned. That momentary pause came at a severe cost to them. Immediately, 8 early God King life-devouring beasts were smashed to pieces, and the other winged wolves suffered injuries of various degrees as well. Wolf God's Claw. Jin Hong bellowed out, and the figure of the ancient Sky Wolf behind him moved with him. It made Jin Hong seem like he was the ancient Sky Wolf, directly striking the head of the winged, green wolf. A part of the wolf's head directly exploded, and half of its eye was smashed into pieces as well. It was sent flying by Jin Hong's attack. At that moment, Jin Hong seemed to be surrounded by the Sky Wolf. He was awe-inspiring. With a single movement, he caught up to the winged wolf with even greater speed. He spread his arms, and a huge pair of powerful arms directly grabbed the wolf by its wings before yanking suddenly. The wings of the mid-God King life-devouring beast were directly ripped off by Jin Hong. Afterwards, Jin Hong produced a howl at the sky. The howl was elating, just like the howl of an ancient Sky Wolf, stunning everything in the surroundings. Jin Hong's head suddenly turned into a wolf's. It was a head covered in golden fur. Like an emperor among the wolves, it gave off a dignified, noble aura, enough to unite the powerful. He gave off an inviolable sense of pride. At that moment, Jin Hong had taken the form of a humanoid wolf, with a wolf's head and a human's body. He suddenly opened his fangs and chomped down on the remainder of the life-devouring beast's head with lightning speed. The huge figure of the ancient Sky Wolf behind him replicated his actions, chomping down just like Jin Hong. It seemed like Jin Hong was imbued with the power of the ancient Sky Wolf such that the life-devouring beast was beheaded with a single bite after a crisp crack. This time, the life-devouring beast did not recover. Even the tremendous amount of life force it had accumulated within its body was useless. After using the blessing of the Wolf Exalt, Jin Hong seemed to have gained the support of the ancient Sky Wolf. Not only was the might of every single move unmatched, they were all extremely profound as well. They seemed to be hiding countless secrets, allowing him to sever the life force of the life-devouring beast. In less than 5 minutes, Jin Hong had killed the life-devouring beast that he said he needed an hour to kill before. It was his complete victory. Look over there. The mid-God King life-devouring beast has actually been slain by Jin Hong. Jin Hong really is the successor of a Grand Exalt. That's probably his true strength. He's actually so powerful. He's probably powerful enough to make it onto the God King's throne. Jin Hong is actually so terrifying. He's only a mid-God King right now. If he makes it to late God King, wouldn't making the top 10 of the God King's throne be set in stone for him? Top 10. You underestimate young Master Jin Hong far too much. As long as young Master Jin Hong becomes a late God King, he'll definitely place first. Jin Hong ended the battle with lightning speed. Obviously, many of the prodigies witnessed what had happened, and they were immediately stunned. They could already see the light of victory. So much for a Grand Exalt's secret technique. It really is powerful. To another side, the bloodied Jian Chen had also noticed Jin Hong and nodded secretly as he put up an arduous fight as a ruse. Jin Hong was the successor of a Grand Exalt. As the successor of the ancient Skywolf, only strength like that would truly match his identity. Chapter 2697, The Beast King. Yang Yutian, let me assist you. Let's work together and kill this life-devouring beast. After killing one of the mid-God King life-devouring beasts, Jin Hong released his secret technique, and the blurry figure of the ancient Skywolf immediately vanished from behind him. His presence returned to normal, and he immediately rushed towards Jian Chen. The secret technique was indeed powerful, but it also expended a tremendous amount of energy. It was to the point where even Jin Hong did not want to use it for even a second longer. He would much rather work with Jian Chen to kill the life-devouring beast than to use the blessing of the Wolf Exalt again. To the other side, Jian Chen purposefully appeared to be under great strain as he fought against the life-devouring beast. When he saw Jin Hong fly towards him, he came up with an idea and suddenly said, "There's no need. I can still last for much longer, so go deal with the other life-devouring beast first." Currently, the third mid-God King life-devouring beast was wreaking havoc. It forced back the prodigies and God Kings constantly, completely gaining the upper hand. Half of the prodigies suffered wounds, some light and others worse. They were all covered in blood. Several of the sacrificial God Kings had already been mauled to death by the vicious life-devouring beast. Against so many prodigies, the life-devouring beast that was only a mid-God King constantly suffered injuries as well. Even though none of these prodigies were as powerful as the life-devouring beast, they did come from peak clans in the Saints' world after all. They all possessed powerful and ancient secret techniques. Some of their secret techniques could even allow them to unleash attacks on the level of mid-God Kings despite only being early God Kings. The life-devouring beast would suffer greatly under these powerful secret techniques, except the wounds would be nothing compared to its tremendous life force. Especially after draining the tremendous life force of a few sacrificial God Kings, the life-devouring beast would have more life force to recover as it grew stronger. Without Jian Chen and Jin Hong, these two great experts who could match late God Kings, killing the life-devouring beast with just the prodigies and sacrificial God Kings would be extremely difficult. Jin Hong immediately paused after hearing Jian Chen's words. He glanced past the two battlefields and understood exactly what was going on. Yang Yutian is very powerful. Although it seems difficult for him to handle a mid-God King life-devouring beast alone, he won't be defeated anytime soon. However, the people on the other side have already lost the upper hand. People can die at any time. With a quick thought, Jin Hong changed directions, flying towards the third life-devouring beast now. He went to save the prodigies. Swish! Jin Hong was extremely fast. He arrived before the other life-devouring beast in a flash and transformed his hand into a claw to directly grab its hind leg. With a violent jerk, a large piece of flesh was ripped off from the life-devouring beast's leg. Fantastic, young Master Jin Hong has come. Since young Master Jin Hong has arrived, this life-devouring beast is dead for sure. Everyone unleash your full strength and kill it with young Master Jin Hong. Jin Hong's arrival made everyone's morale peak. No one held back anymore, all unleashing powerful secret techniques to assist Jin Hong in killing the life-devouring beast. Jian Chen watched on from afar. The light in his eyes flickered as he thought, within the range of the senses of my soul, there were numerous life-devouring beasts moving about within a range of 10 million kilometers. There are many huge life-devouring beasts as well. If this continues on like this, I wonder when are we going to emerge from the Two World Mountains. The Two World Mountains is just too vast. I can only observe a portion of it even with the senses of my soul. I have no idea where the way out is. And the special geography here constantly changes. If I travel in a straight line, I'll probably just end up walking in circles. I need them to make it out of here. It looks like if I want to make it out of the Two World Mountains as soon as possible, I need to leave the group and clear the obstacles in front of them so that they can cover ground without obstruction. Only then can I leave the Two World Mountains as quickly as possible. Suddenly, a sharp gleam of light flashed through Jian Chen's eyes. 100 kilometers away, within the center of a small mountain range stood the highest peak. On it lay a winged wolf with golden fur. It exhaled and inhaled the energy of the world. It was cultivating. This golden wolf was clearly a life-devouring beast, except the pulsing energy it gave off was so great that it had reached late God King. Let alone the Two World Mountains, a late God King across the entire world of the fallen beast was an existence that could stand supreme. The strongest in the world of the fallen beast were only infinite primes, and there were so few of them. It was possible to count them all. As a result, late God Kings who were only second to infinite primes possessed extraordinary statuses. Suddenly, a powerful strand of sword chi condensed out of nowhere above the golden wolf. Before the wolf could respond, the sword chi directly stabbed at the beast, leaving behind a deep slash. The golden wolf suddenly roused from cultivation and opened its eyes. Within the fury of its scarlet eyes was a sparkle. It seemed like it possessed a slight amount of self-consciousness having reached late God King, making it unlike the other life-devouring beasts that only acted on instinct. Of course, it was only a slight amount, not even enough for it to communicate with others. The golden wolf produced a great howl after rousing. The sound pierced through everything and shook up the vegetation and rocks. Then it looked away as if it could sense something, immediately locking down on where Jian Chen fought. It shot off like an arrow. 100 kilometers away, Jin Hong and the prodigies also heard the piercing wolf howl as they fought the life-devouring beast. Their faces changed drastically. Did that come from a late God King life-devouring beast? A prodigy asked with a pale complexion. Mid-God King life-devouring beasts are already difficult enough to handle, let alone late God King ones. Probably only primordial realm experts can kill a late God King life-devouring beast, another prodigy added with difficulty as his voice trembled. We're in trouble now. Against a late God King life-devouring beast, we probably can't even escape, the prodigy from the Empire Lotus Sword sect, Ping Yisheng, also said with a sunken voice. He could feel the impending danger. Blessing of the wolf exalt. Jin Hong bellowed and used the secret technique once more. A tremendous presence appeared, and the figure of the ancient skywolf appeared behind him once more. His battle prowess skyrocketed after using the secret technique. In just a few attacks, he tore the life-devouring beast that the prodigies struggled against so much to pieces. Afterwards, he called out, "Everyone assist Yang Yutian in killing the final mid-God King life-devouring beast, and then flee as quickly as you can. I'll go draw the Beast King away. My blessing of the wolf exalt can last for 5 minutes at most. After that, even I don't know what fate I'll be facing. During that time, you have to flee as far away as you can. You can only rely on yourselves for the upcoming journey." At that moment, Jin Hong seemed like he was about to take on everything alone. Even against the late God King life-devouring Beast King, he was fearless. Afterwards, he tossed a divine hull to Jian Chen and said, "Jian Chen, that divine hull contains all the cultivators. You're probably the strongest besides me, and you also have grasped the laws of space, so your chances of survival are much greater than everyone else's. I'll leave these people to you. I hope that you can emerge from the Two World Mountains alive. Chapter 2698, Leaving the group looking at the incoming divine hall, Jian Chen did not extend his hand to catch it. He looked at the determined Jin Hong in surprise. He had never thought that Jin Hong would sacrifice himself to save others. Against the undefeatable life-devouring Beast King, he did not try to flee by himself. Instead, he chose to risk his life and draw it away to make time for everyone's escape. After all, Jin Hong did not have any particularly close ties with the prodigies here. Strictly speaking, they were not even the simplest of friends. They were all strangers. Only because of the seniors of their clans and their common goal had they formed a group together. With how Jin Hong was willing to lay his life down for these people, Jian Chen was forced to re-evaluate him. Hold on. Young Master Jin Hong, you are the backbone of the entire group. You can't leave us, or even if we manage to avert this disaster for now, our future journey will become extremely difficult without you. Why don't you let Yang Yutian draw away the life-devouring Beast King? After all, we've all witnessed his strength. I firmly believe that Yang Yutian can take on such a heavy burden, Zhou Ji said suddenly. Jian Chen had humiliated him before, which made him resent Jian Chen. Now that such a great opportunity had presented itself, he would never simply let it slide. He wanted to screw over Jian Chen viciously. Zhou Ji is right. Not only is Yang Yutian powerful, he's skilled with the laws of space as well. He's the most appropriate candidate for drawing away the life-devouring Beast King. After all, who is better at fleeing than those with the laws of space? Chu Jie did not forget to seal the deal as he sneered. Zhou Ji, Chu Jie, you, He Qianqian was furious. How could she not know that Chu Jie and Zhou Ji were trying to push Yang Yutian to his death? This was not the outside world after all. Once people ran out of energy here, it would be far more difficult to replenish it than in the saints' world. With Yang Yutian's mastery over the laws of space, even if he could escape from the late God King life-devouring Beast King, who could guarantee that he would not meet even more powerful life-devouring beasts? To say the least, even if Yang Yutian managed to survive somehow, he would be completely lost in the Two World Mountains because he would have left the group. His final fate would be obvious. Only the people from organizations who had participated in the construction of 100 Saints City knew the way to the city. Moreover, it was forbidden to pass the secret technique that could detect the city's location to others, nor was it possible to do so. Yet, at a time like this, He Qianqian was unable to say anything to rebuke them, as she would be offending Jin Hong if she did. Jian Chen remained composed. He glanced past Chu Jie and Zhou Ji coldly. Even though he had wanted to take advantage of this situation to leave the group, Chu Jie and Zhou Ji's actions had roused his killing intent. Afterwards, he flicked a finger, and a gust of wind slammed into the divine hall, sending it back into Jin Hong's hand. Jian Chen said, "Young Master Jin Hong, leave the life-devouring beast to me. I have grasped the laws of space, so I possess an absolute advantage in terms of speed. Drawing it away won't be anything difficult. Miss Qian, please keep this divine hall with you. Once I leave, it's extremely likely for me to get lost here. As a result, I've left a sliver of the power of my soul in the divine hall. If I die, the fragment will disperse, but if I'm alive, I can locate you through the fragment, or even catch up to you." As he said that, Jian Chen produced a supreme quality saint artifact divine hall and tossed it to He Qianqian. Afterwards, he immediately abandoned the mid-God King life-devouring beast opponent and vanished with a flash, disappearing into the hazy mist. "Yang Yutian, you must be careful. I'll wait for your safe return." Jin Hong glanced in Jian Chen's direction with some mixed emotions before immediately unleashing his full strength and engaging the mid-God King life-devouring beast. In the end, Jin Hong used the blessing of the wolf exalt and slew all the life-devouring beasts there before immediately leading the group away from the area as quickly as possible. They did not even collect the valuable corpses. In the end, they lost over 1,000 sacrificial god kings in the battle, and the prodigies all suffered injuries of various degrees. Humph, Yang Yutian, I refuse to believe that you'll survive this time. I refuse to believe that you can escape a life-devouring beast king in the two-world mountains just by relying on your laws of space. As the group left in a hurry, Chu Jia rejoiced secretly. Some of the humiliation he experienced dispersed. He believed that Jian Chen was dead for sure now. Yang Yutian, I hope you return safely. I'll definitely protect this divine hall so that you can find your way and catch up to us. He Qianqian clutched Jian Chen's divine hall firmly. She constantly sensed for the fragment of the power of Jian Chen's soul in there as she secretly prayed. He Qianqian obviously hoped that he could return safely given the great battle prowess he had displayed. At the very least, he was still a member of the Heavenly Crane clan. He could add to the might the Heavenly Crane clan possessed in the world of the fallen beast. Brother Yang Yutian, I hope that you survive. Many other prodigies prayed for Jian Chen as well. They were not Jian Chen's friends. Instead, they had been moved by Jian Chen's sacrifice. Elsewhere, Jian Chen was finally free from all the restrictions he had when he was in the group. He could finally unleash his full strength. He drew the life-devouring beast king far away, flying in the exact opposite direction from the group. In the end, he stopped several thousand kilometers from the group and stood with his arms crossed, waiting. A while later, a powerful gust of wind arrived. A huge, golden wolf appeared before Jian Chen as it fluttered its wings. The aura of a late god king beast king flooded out into the surroundings, frightening a few life-devouring beasts in the surrounding 100 kilometers and forcing them onto the ground. A late god king life-devouring beast was already an unmatched ruler within the two-world mountains. It possessed a degree of self-consciousness and could claim its own territory. The wolf glanced at Jian Chen before immediately producing a howl as it charged towards him. At the same time, a mysterious devouring force enveloped Jian Chen. Jian Chen remained calm against the life-devouring beast king that was enough to frighten all of the prodigies. Before Jian Chen, its terrifying ability to devour life force was a joke. Jian Chen exhaled gently, and the breath of air he let out transformed into a streak of light in an instant. Radiating with powerful sword intent, it immediately shot forward and pierced through the life-devouring beast king. Afterwards, the life-devouring beast king that had frightened so many prodigies was bisected mid-air. It was split in half, from its nose down its body. Not only had the streak of light sliced its body, it had also destroyed its ability to heal. After a single clash, the life-devouring beast king had died. All that was left was pure life force. Chapter 2699, Harvesting en masse. The remains of life-devouring beasts were extremely valuable. The stronger the life-devouring beast, the greater its value. As a result, Jian Chen obviously would not simply leave behind this late god king life-devouring beast king. Instead, he pulled out a space ring and tossed the corpse inside. Life-devouring beasts were unique to the world of the fallen beast. They originated from the special environment here, and if they left this place, they would not be able to survive. As a result, life-devouring beasts did not exist in the saints' world. Even if they did, they would be corpses taken from the world of the fallen beast. Their remains contain tremendous life force, making them a fantastic material for many high-grade god-tier pills. As a result, the remains of life-devouring beasts were an important resource that many peak organizations fought over in the saints' world. Even Grand Primes valued the remains of life-devouring beasts. Even the pills of the lowest grade refined from life-devouring beasts would be mid-grade god tier. They could even reach high grade or supreme grade. Grand Primes would also fight and could also get injured. They would need impressive god-tier pills to heal once they were injured, so the remains of life-devouring beasts were a crucial, strategic resource to any peak expert or organization. Even though Jian Chen had only learned about the existence of life-devouring beasts recently, he had learned a lot about them from He Qianxian, which was why he knew exactly how valuable they were in the saints' world. Now that he was free from the group, he obviously would not miss this fantastic opportunity to harvest the remains of life-devouring beasts en masse. As a result, he immediately hurried off after collecting the life-devouring beast king's corpse. With a flash, he hurried off towards another area where a large life-devouring beast herd was gathered. Jian Chen was completely fearless in the dangerous Two-World Mountains. Nothing could pose a threat to him. He traveled with lightning speed, and in just a few seconds, he appeared 1,000 kilometers away. There, Jian Chen detected another large herd of life-devouring beasts through the senses of his soul. On one of the mountains within his vision gathered several thousand presences of life-devouring beasts. There was a late God King life-devouring beast king there as well, with 5 mid-God King and over 100 early God King life-devouring beasts. The rest were all below God King. Jian Chen did not take action as soon as he arrived. Instead, his eyes became silvery white, filled with vast amounts of sword intent. He was using the will of the ultimate way of the sword. With the ultimate way of the sword, the world was within his control. The fate of every living organism within the range of 100,000 kilometers was within his grasp. In a split second, powerful sword intent engulfed the mountain occupied by several thousand life-devouring beasts. At that moment, the flowing air, the unique energy of the world, even the vegetation, rocks, and soil turned into extremely sharp sword qi. The countless strands of sword qi were densely packed, filling the space there, radiating with a destructive presence. Destroy. Jian Chen had truly become the ruler of this region. With a single thought, all of the life-devouring beasts, including the life-devouring beast king, could not even let out a single sound. They could not even put up a struggle. They just died then and there, slain by the will of Jian Chen's ultimate way of the sword. For those below the primordial realm, no one could withstand the will of Jian Chen's way of the sword. The only way to survive was to step into the primordial realm. In the blink of an eye, the herd of life-devouring beasts that was even larger than the previous herd of winged wolves was completely slain. If Jin Hong's group were present, probably all of them would jump in fright. Jian Chen collected all of their corpses, but once he stowed all the corpses into his space ring, the space ring became filled to the brim. He had run out of space. What a pity. Due to the limitations on the grade of the space rings that I can bring in, there isn't much space in them. Just a single life-devouring beast herd has filled it to the brim. It looks like I need to find more space rings. Jian Chen frowned as he looked at the space ring on his finger. Then he looked in the direction where he had come from, and after a moment of hesitation, he immediately left the area with the laws of space. He could cover a range of 10 million kilometers with the senses of his soul in the Two-World Mountains. He had not traveled for more than 10 million kilometers from where he had parted with the group, so the location of where the great battle occurred was still within Jian Chen's range. Jian Chen returned to the battlefield with terrifying strength and collected a vast amount of space rings from the sacrificial soldiers. He continued his hunt after taking these space rings. In a mere 3 days, the number of life-devouring beasts that had died to Jian Chen's hands ranged into the 10,000s. These life-devouring beasts varied in size, with some being as small as a few meters and some being as large as a few hundred meters. He collected all of their corpses, and half of all the space rings he had collected from the sacrificial soldiers 3 days ago were filled. In this supposed zone of danger, Jian Chen saw no danger at all. Instead, it was more like a playground where he could do whatever he wanted. During those 3 days, the group had traveled peacefully under Jin Hong's lead. They did not encounter a single attack from life-devouring beasts, so they gradually sped up. Yep, they are traveling faster and faster. At this rate, they should be able to leave the two-world mountains soon. It's just a pity that I still can't find the exits even with the senses of my soul. Several hundred kilometers away, Jian Chen sat on the back of a huge eagle that spanned several hundred meters. It flew at an altitude of 1,000 meters. As the group slowly covered ground, Jian Chen maintained a certain distance in front of them under his deliberate control. The eagle was also a life-devouring beast. It was at Late God King. Late God King life-devouring beast kings would have developed a weak level of intelligence already, which was why Jian Chen was able to tame it with force, temporarily using it as a mount. The hidden issue caused by the mist seems like it will erupt soon. It's perfect for me to see just what kind of danger this mist will pose to cultivators when it lurks within their bodies, Jian Chen murmured to himself on the back of the eagle. He kept the senses of his soul expanded, so he could clearly observe the situation of the group. Chapter 2700, A strange sight. Several hundred kilometers behind Jian Chen, the huge group led by Jin Hong moved through the thick forest quietly. They would encounter some swamplands and rivers from time to time, so they all hovered above the ground. Their presences were hidden away. Even the cultivators who cloaked themselves with energy carefully controlled the pulses of power as they did their best to remain hidden. As a result, even though there were numerous people in the group, they did not produce a single sound that stood out. From afar, they seemed like a flock of ghosts that were quickly gliding through the forest. It has already been 3 days, yet we haven't come across a single life-devouring beast. The journey has been surprisingly peaceful. Young Master Jin Hong really is clever, coming up with an idea like this to save us a lot of unnecessary trouble, the prodigy from the Scarlet Light clan, Guang Wanhua, communicated to everyone gleefully. Originally, he possessed deep fear towards the two-world mountains. He was even afraid of setting foot in there. Every single battle before had put him on edge. He had basically been dancing on the boundary of death every single time, where the slightest carelessness would take him into the gaping chasm of darkness, dooming him for all of eternity. The peace of the past 3 days immediately improved Guang Wanhua's perception of the two-world mountains. It no longer seemed as terrifying as rumored. I really hope that the rest of our journey can remain this peaceful so that we can leave the mountains as soon as possible. Once we get out of here, all of us will basically be safe, He Qianqian added eagerly. Don't celebrate too early. We won't necessarily be safe once we emerge from the two-world mountains. None of us knows what has happened to the 100 Saint city that our clans have occupied for so many years. I think that even if we do make it out of the two-world mountains alive, what we face next will just be a new challenge, Ping Yixing of the Empire Lotus Sword sect said grimly. As soon as Ping Yixing finished speaking, a prodigy retorted, "What's there to be terrified about? We've brought so many sacrificial soldiers with us that just the sheer amount is unprecedented, and it is just to resolve all instability within the world of the fallen beast. We can't use the sacrificial soldiers properly in the two-world mountains as they are unsuited for battles against life-devouring beast, but as long as we can get out of this place, we can lead a massacre among the Darkstar race with the power that we possess." That's right. As long as we make it out of the two-world mountains, everything will be alright. The formations created from our sacrificial soldiers can even deal with infinite primes. Just how many infinite primes does the Darkstar race have? The Darkstar race won't pose any problems to us at all. What we should be cautious about are these life-devouring beasts. They are our primary opponents. Everyone communicated through the use of techniques such that there were no sounds at all. Many of the prodigies spoke of the Darkstar race with contempt. The most powerful expert from the Darkstar race, the Darkstar Emperor, was only a 9th heavenly layer infinite prime. On the other hand, every single organization behind them possessed a grand prime. Some of them even had several grand primes. This was also why some of them looked down on the Dark Star race from the bottom of their hearts. Everyone, shut up. At this moment, Jin Hong bellowed out, and everyone's conversations came to a halt. They immediately became nervous, sternly raising their guard. They thought they were facing some new danger. Jin Hong did not say anything else. Instead, he closed his eyes and sensed for something carefully. A while later, when he opened his eyes, there was a flash of light, and he vanished. He appeared before a cave several kilometers away. All of the prodigies followed behind him with a group of sacrificial soldiers. They all held their breaths as they stood behind Jin Hong sternly and nervously. "Young Master Jin Hong, is there something wrong?" Sun Ji could not help but ask as he looked around. Jin Hong stared into the pitch-black cave for a while before glancing around sternly. He frowned, and a while later, he said, "There was originally quite a large life-devouring beast herd here. Looking at the traces in the surroundings, there should have been extremely many life-devouring beasts here before, and this cave should have been where the life-devouring beast king resided. For some reason, all of them have vanished." Everyone looked around instinctively with that, and indeed, they found the traces left behind by many life-devouring beasts. Immediately, their hearts shivered, and they became nervous for some reason. These life-devouring beasts have probably moved away. They've probably migrated elsewhere, Kong Feiying of the Tsangqiong clan said casually. With that, many people nodded in agreement. That can't be right. Jin Hong frowned and shook his head. Along the way, this is the second place I've found where a life-devouring beast herd used to reside. The situation in these two places are exactly the same. There were no traces of battle, but all of the life-devouring beasts had disappeared. And looking at the lingering presence, these life-devouring beasts all vanished 2 to 3 days ago. And, according to my secret technique, I haven't discovered any evidence of migration. If such a large herd of life-devouring beasts migrated away, they would leave behind a presence even if they did not leave behind a single trace. It would be impossible for such a strong presence to vanish in such a short amount of time, which is why I would be able to sense it with my secret technique with ease. However, I haven't found any presence of migrating life-devouring beasts, nor are there any traces of their departure. It seems like they've just evaporated. This is the last trace they've left behind before vanishing. For a moment, everyone fell silent. The sudden disappearance of a huge beast herd made many people uneasy. Could they have been killed, and then their remains were taken away? He Qianshan said rather unnaturally. That's even less likely. Ping Yixing of the Empire Lotus Sword sect immediately rejected the possibility. Looking at the traces, many life-devouring beasts resided here. There should be a late God King life-devouring beast king watching over this place at the very least. Even infinite primes can't kill so many life-devouring beasts without leaving behind traces of a struggle. That's right. Even though an infinite prime can easily annihilate a life-devouring beast herd, they definitely can't do it so cleanly. There should be some remnants of battle at the very least, but there are no traces of battle here at all, the prodigy of the Man family, Man Yunjun added as well. Let's not talk about this for now and leave here quickly. Jin Hong gave a stern command as a gleam of light flashed through his eyes. However, just when everyone was prepared to leave, a howl suddenly rang out from behind the group. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.